Chapter 5177 was still interesting about this lonely little monk. Yuanji couldn't believe his ears. This lonely little monk said that he had lost. What kind of joke was this? This lonely little monk didn't even say anything to refute. How could he have lost? Could this lonely little monk have a bad brain? The people below the stage were also baffled. This lonely little monk didn't look like a fool. Why did he say something stupid? Yuanji sneered. Lonesome. Even if you want to win, you can't do this, right? We haven't started the debate yet. Why did you say that I lost? Yin Chujio smiled faintly and said, Since everything is empty, where does your anger come from? The sneer on Yuanji's face instantly froze. Previously, he had said that heart, Buddha, and all living things are empty. Everything was empty. How could he explain his anger now? Although many of the people below the stage did not know any Buddhist scriptures, they still understood the simple logic. Yuanji's own actions were already contrary to the point he had raised. Wasn't that a loss? It seemed that the lonely little monk's previous declaration of names and recitation of scriptures were not nonsense. They were used to force Yuanji to make mistakes. TSK. This was the first time they had seen such a debate. However, this debate was much more interesting than the previous one. They didn't understand what the monks said in the previous debate. They even wanted to sleep. This lonely little monk was the most interesting one. Yuanji was unwilling to lose just like that. After all, if they won this round, the bitter Zen sect would have won the debate. Therefore, he said with a cold face, This doesn't count. There has never been a debate like this. Yin Chujio said lightly, Emptiness is color, and color is emptiness. As long as you are proved wrong, the debate can naturally be done like this. In short, you lost. Yuanji looked at Yin Chujio's casual look and became more and more angry. However, there were no fixed rules for the debate in the Chongshao continent, and the rules did not explain it. He really could not do anything about Yin Chujio. At this moment, Yin Chujio looked at the crowd below the stage and said with a faint smile, Almsgivers, do you think this penniless monk won or did he win? The crowd immediately let out a noisy shout. Young Master Lonely won. Not only did young Master Lonely win, but he also won skillfully. You shouldn't be so stubborn up there. That's right. What young Master Lonely said is simple and easy to understand. Even if we don't understand Buddhism, we can still see that he won. If you are willing to bet, you must admit defeat. Is that person trying to be a scoundrel? Yuanji was so angry that he almost died. He really did not understand why these people below the stage would speak up for Lonesome. Could it be that these people were from the Zen sect? Yuanji was really thinking too much. These people had nothing to do with Yin Chujio. What Yin Chujio grasped was the mentality of these people who liked to cause a ruckus. If she lost this round, then the debate would be over. The cultivation competition would be set for the next day. Wouldn't these people have nothing to watch? Moreover, they felt that this lonely little monk was different from ordinary monks. They also wanted to see what he would do next. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Moreover, the lonely little monk had read the scriptures for them for a long time in vain. They couldn't just listen to him for nothing, could they? Yuanji wanted to say more, but Master Xuanji had asked someone to replace him. Since things had come to this point, it was useless to say more. Yuanji clenched his fist and sneered at Yin Chujio. Let's talk about the strength of tomorrow's cultivation competition. Chapter 5178 Appearance is born from the heart. Hearing Yuanji's words, Yin Chujio still smiled faintly and did not speak. This made Yuanji even more flustered and exasperated, and the crowd booed. Yuanji was so angry that he almost died, but the law did not punish the crowd. He could not go down and bicker with those who were watching the show. He angrily returned to the bitter Zen sect's stance. Yin Chujio did not pay attention to the new disciple of the bitter Zen sect. She took out the wooden fish again and began to recite the scriptures. The disciple of the bitter Zen sect held his anger in his heart. However, he thought about it and realized that he had not proposed a defense yet. He was not afraid of this lonely being cheated, so he said, Lonely, stop reading for now. Let's begin the debate. If you continue to do as you wish, it means that you have admitted defeat. Hearing that, Yin Chujio smiled lightly and said, How should I address you? This penniless monk Yuan Tong. Yin Chujiu thought to herself, Yuan Tong? And Shunfeng. Yuan Tong directly threw out his own debate topic. If there is a cause, there must be a phase. If there is a phase, it will mess up people's hearts. It's your turn. Everyone looked at Yin Chujiu eagerly, wanting to hear how she would answer. However, she pointed at Yuan Tong's chest and did not say anything. Everyone looked confused. What did he mean by this? Yuan Tong wanted to question her, but when he remembered Yuan Jie's lesson, he softened his tone. What do you mean by this? Yin Chujiu pointed at Yuan Tong's chest again and said, You can't even understand this, and you still want to debate? You've lost, go down. Yuan Tong was so angry that he laughed. This lone had just pointed at his chest twice, and he lost? This lone was talking to himself too much, wasn't he? How did he lose? The people below the stage were also dumbfounded. What did he mean? How did that Yuan Tong lose? Yuan Tong said in a somewhat exasperated manner, Lone, speak clearly. How did I lose? Yin Chujiu pressed her palms together and said slowly, Life is created by oneself, and appearance is born from the heart. All things in the world are in the form of appearance. The heart does not move. All things do not move. The heart does not change. All things do not change. It is not the so-called appearance that disturbs the heart, but your heart is in turmoil. Since your heart is already in turmoil, do you still have the right to argue with me? Although the audience below the stage did not understand Yin Chujiu's tongue-twister-like words, they felt that it was pretty awesome, so they started to jeer. Good. Well said. Well said. Little Master Lone has won. Yuan Tong was so angry that he almost died. What did these idiots know? Why were they shouting that Lone had won? These people must have been hired by the Zen sect. How insidious. However, to be honest, he really did not know how to refute Yin Chujiu's words just now. He thought to himself, this Lone was indeed very proficient in Buddhist principles. Even if he tried to refute, he would still lose in the end. Since that was the case, he might as well just admit defeat. Hence, Yuan Tong took a deep breath. I admit defeat. Yin Chujiu heaved a sigh of relief when she heard Yuan Tong admit defeat. She had racked her brains just now to think of these few sentences. If this Yuan Tong continued to argue with her, she really did not know what to say next. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, this fellow would not show it. He nodded at Yuan Tong. Thank you for letting me win. Yuan Tong angrily walked down from the competition stage, hating Yin Chujiu. The people of the bitter Zen sect were also indignant. This Lone was too crafty. At this time, another disciple of the bitter Zen sect stepped onto the competition stage. Before he could say anything, Yin Chujiu said first, It has always been your bitter Zen sect who brought up the topic of debate. It should be my turn this time, right? That disciple nodded with a hint of arrogance. Sure. Chapter 5179. Yin Chujiu's debate topic. This disciple of the bitter Zen sect was called Yuan Ji. He believed that he was quite knowledgeable about Buddhist scriptures, and felt that it was fine for Yin Chujiu to come up with the debate topic. Yin Chujiu smiled faintly at him. However, for some reason, Yuan Ji felt that there was some malicious intent in her smile. I said chicken first, it's your turn. Yuan Ji. Everyone. What the hell? Did they hear wrongly? There was a chicken first? Was she planning to let Yuan Ji prove that there was an egg first? What kind of joke was this? This question was an endless paradox. How were they supposed to argue? If they said that there was an egg first, where did the egg come from? If they said that there was a chicken first, where did the chicken come from? However, Yuan Ji had to successfully refute the argument raised by that lonely little monk before he could win. It was obvious that he couldn't win. Moreover, he had never heard of anyone who had a chicken or an egg first. Yuan Ji finally understood why Yuan Ji and Yuan Tong were so angry. This lonely was too crafty. He looked innocent and harmless, but in fact his heart was black. Yuan Ji's voice was slightly trembling as he said, What kind of argument is this? Amitabha, what's wrong with this argument? This penniless monk thinks this argument is very interesting. You can start the argument now and don't waste time. Of course, you can also admit defeat directly. This penniless monk has no objections. Yin Chujio said lightly. Yuanji gritted his teeth. Change the debate topic. This doesn't count. Yin Chujio paused for a moment. That's fine. This penniless monk has always been kind to others. Then change the debate topic. The people of the Zen sect thought that Yin Chujio was most likely stupid. She was clearly on the verge of victory, but she actually agreed to change the debate topic with Yuanji. If this wasn't stupid, then what was? Yuanji was delighted. He thought to himself, this lone doesn't seem to be that smart. Otherwise, why would he agree to change the debate topic? At this time, Yin Chujio said lightly. However, it's only the third time. If this penniless monk changes the debate topic, you can't raise any more questions. Yuanji thought that as long as it wasn't a rogue question like the chicken getting the egg first, he wasn't afraid at all. So he said with certainty, of course. Yin Chujio smiled again. For some reason, Yuan Tong felt that her smile was a little strange. I said there was a goose first. It's your turn. Yuanji. Everyone. This was too fucking mean. What difference did it make whether it was changed or not? According to what he said, it could be said that there was a duck first, a wild goose first, and an eagle first. Yuanji finally understood why Lone had said that he would not do anything more than 3 times. It turned out that he was waiting for him here. Yuanji was so angry that he was twitching. However, the people below who were watching the show felt that it was very interesting. One after another they jeered. Who's that? Argue. Little Master Lone said that there was a goose first. So why don't you just say that there was a goose egg first? That's right, hurry up and argue. We're all waiting. This is good. It's much more interesting than those impermanence and perception things from before. We don't understand those things, but we can understand this. Yuanji wished he could shut their mouths. What did these idiots know? However, he had already agreed not to change the topic and knew that he would lose in the end. So he gritted his teeth and said, You win. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Amitba. Thank you. Yin Chujio said lightly, as if she didn't care about winning or losing. Yin Chujio won 3 people in a row. Master Xuanji, and the others' faces turned ugly. If Lone won one more round, the situation would be a bit dangerous. Therefore, the next person on the stage was the key. Chapter 5181. Again at this time, a disciple of the bitter Zen sect stood up and said, Let me meet him. This Lone is just a little clever. It's not a big deal. The disciple who spoke was called Yuan Guang. He was Master Xian Hu's direct disciple, and had an arrogant personality. When he saw Yuanji and the other 2 lose consecutively, he felt that it was a great opportunity for him to show off. Xianji wanted to stop them, but he understood Xian Hui. If he spoke out to stop them, he might be dissatisfied, so he did not say anything. Xian Hui had long disliked Yin Chujio, and could not wait for her disciple to go up and vent her anger. Thus she nodded and said, That's fine too. You can go. Otherwise he won't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Yuan Guang immediately jumped onto the competition stage with an arrogant expression. Before he could say anything, he heard Yin Chujio say, I will still be the one to come up with the debate question this time. You don't have any objections, right? Yuan Guang frowned. Why should you come up with the debate question? Yin Chujio said indifferently, You have already come up with the debate question twice, and I have only come up with one. So I will still be the one to come up with the debate question this time. Why? Don't you dare to accept the challenge? Yuan Guang thought highly of himself, and snorted coldly. Fine, if you come up with it, then you come up with it. But you can't say that the chicken comes first, and the egg comes first. Of course. What this penniless monk is saying now is a lie. It's your turn. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yuan Guang curled his lips. Is there a need to argue? You already said that what you said was a lie, so naturally it's the truth. Yin Chujio smiled faintly. The truth? If what I said is true, then I'm telling a lie. Then what you said is a lie. If what I said is a lie, then if I say that I'm telling a lie, then wouldn't that be the truth? Yin Chujio laughed lightly. Yuan Guang was confused by her words. The more he thought about it, the more clueless he became. He had actually gotten himself involved in this. He was not the only one who was like this. The people who were watching the show were also like this. Some of them even started to argue. It was very noisy for a moment. Some people wondered why this lonely little master had brought up such tricky arguments. How did he think of it? Then they thought of what he said about being enlightened by Buddha. Could it be that Buddha told him all these questions? At this time, Yuan Guang was sweating profusely and his head was buzzing. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. If it were not for the fact that there was no hair on his head, he would probably have plucked a few strands of hair. Yin Chujio was still as calm as ever. She said calmly, "You don't even know which point of view you should stick to. Do you still need to argue? You lost." Yuan Guang was angry and hateful, but he was confused by Yin Chujio's words. He gnashed his teeth and said, "Lonesome good, very good. Well, see." Yin Chujio put her palms together. "Amitba. I'll see you out." Yuan Guang's expression became even more unsightly. He jumped off the competition stage and left. Master Liao saw that Yin Chujio had won 4 matches in a row. He instantly threw the anger that Yin Chujio had brought about by saying that she was a closed-door disciple to the back of his mind. Although this troublemaker's method was a little opportunistic, no matter what, it was good that he had won. As long as he won one more round, the victory of this round of scripture debate would belong to their Zen sect. Compared to the excitement of the Zen sect, the faces of the people of the bitter Zen sect were not as good, especially Xian Hui, whose face was so gloomy that it was frightening. He could have crushed that loneliness to death with one finger. But both he and his disciple had fallen on him. It was a great humiliation. Master Xuanji glanced at Xian Hui's expression and cursed a fool in his heart. However, the most important thing now was to defeat this loneliness, or else he would lose the scripture debate. Chapter 5181. Dead End. Master Xuanji frowned. This loan looked innocent and harmless, but he was very tricky. This round could not be lost. He had to find a countermeasure. At this time, a disciple with an aquiline nose stood up. He said, "Master, that loan has come up with 2 debate questions in succession. Next, it's our bitter Zen sect's turn to come up with a question. I just happen to have a debate question. I guarantee that this loan cannot answer it." Master Xuanji raised his eyebrows slightly and said in a deep voice, "Yuan Qing, please tell me about it." Yuan Qing walked to Master Xuanzi's side and whispered a few words. Master Xuanji nodded his head approvingly and said, "In that case, you can go on stage now." Yuan Qing went on stage with a smug look on his face. Yin Chujio's expression was the same as usual, but she thought to herself, as the saying goes, the person who comes is not kind. She must seize the opportunity. Thus she said, "This penniless monk will come up with the debate questions this time." Yuan Qing snorted coldly. "You have already come up with 2 debate questions in succession. It should be our bitter Zen sect's turn. Most of the previous debate questions were produced by your bitter Zen sect. I only came up with 2. That's not too many, right?" Yin Chujio said indifferently. If it wasn't for the sake of maintaining the lonely little monk's innocent and harmless persona, this fellow would have long scolded Yuan Qing to the point of being shameless. Yuan Qing rolled his eyes. He knew that it was useless to argue with Yin Chujio, so he said, "You and I don't have to argue anymore. Let Master Defong decide." Yin Chujio sneered in her heart. That old monk Defong was definitely from the bitter Zen sect. He would definitely side with the bitter Zen sect. However, before she had the time to stop him, Master Defong said, "Although most of the previous arguments were put forward by the bitter Zen sect, there are 5 rounds in this round. The questions should be put out in turn. This round should be put out by the bitter Zen sect." Yin Chujio cursed the old monk in her heart, but she also knew that since Master Defong had spoken, there was no room for change. She said lightly, "Since Master Defong has said so, then you should give the questions." A smug look flashed in Yuan Qing's eyes. He stretched out his right hand and said, "This penniless monk has an inch-long mouse in his hand. Do you think it's alive or dead?" Inch-long rats, as the name implied, were only about an inch long. They were very small and exquisite. This kind of inch-long rat was not of a high grade. Its attack power was also very average, but it was good at grinding ink. Some people raised it as a spirit pet. Yuan Qing's words immediately caused a huge uproar. The people below the stage discussed animatedly. This time, that little Master Lonely will definitely lose. The inch-long rat in Yuan Qing's hand must be alive. If Lonely Little Master said that the inch rat was alive, then Yuan Qing will squash that inch rat to death. Lonely Little Master will guess wrong. If Lonely Little Master says that the inch rat is dead, then Yuan Qing will not do anything. Lonely Little Master is still wrong. You're right. This question is very similar to the question that Lonely Little Master came up with previously. This time, Lonely Little Master will definitely lose. I really don't want young Master Lonely to lose. However, there's nothing I can do about it. This is a dead end. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much, Master Liaowu. And the others naturally guessed this point. They couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh. Everything was set in stone. Yin Chujio had relied on her cleverness to win 2 rounds before. But in the end, she was still returned. Yuan Qing's face was full of pride. He urged, Lonely, don't dawdle anymore. Just admit defeat. Yin Chujio sighed. I know. No matter if I say that the inch rat is dead or alive, it's a defeat. Yuan Qing said arrogantly. It's good that you know. Since that's the case, are you admitting defeat? Chapter 5182 Yin Chujio let out a long sigh again. Yuan Qing, the outcome is in your hands, so I have no chance of winning. This debate is really unsolvable. However, as the saying goes, monks should be merciful. As the saying goes, sweeping the floor does not harm the lives of ants, but cherishes the moths and lanterns. I didn't expect that you would actually disregard the life of the inch rat in order to be competitive. This is really regrettable. Forget it. Although victory is precious, in this penniless monk's opinion, the life of that inch rat is even more precious. This penniless monk would rather lose this round than disregard the life of that inch rat. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yuan Qing's face turned red from her words. He snorted coldly and said, You're just pretending to be merciful. I originally didn't intend to kill this inch rat. As soon as he finished speaking, Yin Chujio immediately said, Oh, if that's the case, then I guess the inch rat is still alive. Yuan Qing. He was so angry that he almost fainted. He knew that he had been cheated, and it was the same kind of 10,000-year-old deep pit. If he killed the inch rat now, it would confirm his reputation of being ruthless and merciless, which would undoubtedly damage the reputation of the Bitter Zen sect. But if he didn't kill the inch rat, wouldn't he lose this round? Unfortunately, that lone had said a lot of long-winded things before, and didn't give a definite answer. So he couldn't say that Yin Chujio had gone back on her word. Everyone below the stage was dumbstruck. This little Master Lone was too smart, right? He could actually solve such a dead end. Someone jeered. That someone, you can't really be like what little Master Lone said. Killing the inch rat in order to win, right? If that's the case, you're too vicious. That's right, a monk should not have come up with such a question. He even said that he was merciful. Stop joking. That crotch rat was also unlucky to be caught by Yuan Qing. He thought that he met a merciful monk, but in the end, he turned out to be a vicious person. Yuan Qing froze on the stage. For a moment he didn't know what to do. He could only look at Master Xuanji for help. Ba. Yuan Qing, why are you looking at Master Xuanji? Will Master Xuanji order you to kill that crotch rat? If that's the case, even Buddha will punish you. Yin Chujio put her palms together and said. Master Xuanji looked at Yin Chujio with killing intent in his eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. Ba. What Yuan Qing did was indeed inappropriate. Evil creature, why don't you quickly release that inch rat? After the spiritual conference is over, we will deal with it according to the sect rules. Master Xuanji shouted at Yuan Qing sternly. Yuan Qing felt as if he had a dog in his heart. He had already informed Master Xuanji and received his approval, but now he was pushing the blame onto him. However, he also knew that he couldn't say anything now, so he opened his right hand and let the vole go. The vole raised its front paw and bowed to Yin Chujio. Then it jumped off the competition stage and jumped into Mount Buddha. Although Master Defong was unwilling, he could only brace himself and announce, "Zen sect wins the scripture debate competition." Hearing this, Yin Chujio revealed a faint smile on her face. She put her palms together and bowed to the crowd below the stage. "Thank you, benefactors, for your help. Buddha will bless you all. Amitabha." When the crowd below the stage heard this, they immediately felt a warm feeling on their bodies. They thought to themselves, is this a blessing? This little Master Lonesome is amazing. He actually said that, and they received Buddha's blessing? This is too unbelievable. However, it's also true. His little Master Lonesome has always been worshipping Buddha at the Thousand Buddha Cave. Naturally, it's different. Chapter 5183. The strange Hun Dun. Although the people of the Zen sect tried their best to control themselves, the smile on their faces still revealed their good mood at the moment. Master Liaowu looked at Yin Chujio with an extremely amiable gaze. The way he called her disciple made He Xinjiu shiver. Of course, some people were happy while others were sad. The faces of the people of the Zen sect of bitterness were gloomy, especially the 5 people who were defeated by Yin Chujio. They wished they could strangle Yin Chujio to death. Although Master Xuanji was very angry in his heart, he still looked normal on the surface. After Master Liaowu announced the end of today's competition, he specially came over to chat with Master Wu. Master Wu was in high spirits when it came to happy events, so he was happy to talk back to him. Therefore, the two of them chatted for a while. Before leaving, Master Xuanji glanced at Yin Chujio, who was standing behind Master Liaowu. He didn't say anything, but his eyes were full of killing intent. Master Liaowu frowned. After returning to his lodging, he said to Yin Chujio, "You don't have to go on stage for tomorrow's cultivation competition. Firstly, there will be a flaw if you go on stage without Buddhist power. Secondly, those people from the bitter Zen sect obviously hold a grudge against you. If you go on stage, it will be too dangerous." Yin Chujio nodded. She didn't intend to go on stage. Anyway, even if she lost the cultivation competition, there was still the array competition. It was better for her, a fake, not to go up and show off. On the other side, the people of the bitter Zen sect scolded little monk Lonely like a dog. They were nothing more than treacherous, shameless, and would do anything they could. Yuan Qing gnashed his teeth and said, "Make sure that Lonely goes on the stage tomorrow. Then kill him." The others echoed him. They didn't believe that Lonely could resist not going on the stage if they scolded him harshly. As long as he stepped onto the stage, his pitiful cultivation wasn't enough. Anyone on the stage could kill him. Master Xuanji didn't stop the crowd's discussion. He also wished he could kill that little monk Lone. For some reason, he felt that the little monk Lone was a variable in this 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly. It was better to kill him to avoid creating trouble. After Yin Chujio returned to her meditation room, Buddha's candle began to claim credit. "Today it's all my credit. Whether it's your spiritual pets or spiritual weapons, who has more credit than me?" Yin Chujio smiled. "Your credit today is indeed the greatest. Your performance is not bad." When Buddha's candle heard this, he only felt that the entire candle was comfortable. To be able to receive this black-hearted person's praise was too fucking difficult. Just as Buddha's candle was feeling happy, Hun Dun snorted coldly. "Look at how smug you are. You only have a single hair on your entire body, yet you still have the face to boast? Shameless." Buddha's candle's breath almost twitched as he scolded. "Am shameless? Who is as shameless as you? Wearing a green hat all day long. It's really hilarious." When Hun Dun heard that, not only did he not suffer a blow, he was even more smug. "What does a bald lady like you know? If you want to live a good life, you must wear some green on your head." Puffed. "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." The tea in Yin Chujio's mouth was immediately spat out. This Hun Dun was indeed different from the others. He actually did not feel ashamed, but instead felt proud. She was also convinced. Buddha's candle was obviously also shocked by this weirdo. It did not speak for quite a while. The main reason was that it did not know what to say. When Hun Dun saw that it did not say anything, he said smugly, No female is worthy of my beauty, so there is no such thing as a cuckold. Chapter 5184 Tips Buddha's candle was once again shocked by Hun Dun's words. Beauty in the prime of time? Oh God! How could a big meatball wearing a green sweater match beauty? Beauty in the prime of time, how blind was that? But it was also true that Hun Dun was originally blind. Being interrupted by Hun Dun, Buddha's candle was not in the mood to take credit. Seeing that they had all stopped, Yin Chujo was just about to eat something when Jesus' voice came from outside the meditation room. Yun dizzy, a little dizzy. Junior brother Lone, do you have any pills here? Jisoo originally wanted to call out to benefactor Yin, but Ji Kong, who was beside him, glared at him. In a moment of panic, he came to his senses and said this. Yin Chujo could not help but laugh. She said indifferently, "Senior brothers, come in. I happen to have some pills here to treat dizziness." After the three of them met, Jisoo grinned. Almsgiver Yin, who was at the edge of his mouth, was glared back at by Ji Kong. He said, "Junior brother Lone, you are really amazing today." Yin Chujo smiled and did not say anything. She felt that these two people did not come here just to praise her. There must be something going on. Sure enough, after Jisoo praised her a few times, he scratched his head. Junior brother Lone, according to today's situation, most likely only those of the G generation have the qualifications to compete in tomorrow's competition. Although our cultivation is not bad, those of the Yuan generation of the Bitter Zen sect are older than us, and their cultivation is higher than ours. Please give us some advice. Senior brother is really uncertain. Yin Chujo raised her eyebrows slightly and asked, "Did Uncle Master Li ask you to come here?" Ji Kong and Jisoo were stunned immediately, and then said in embarrassment, "How do you know?" Yin Chujo pouted. Master Li was the most calculative person. He must have been afraid that something would happen to his two treasured disciples when they stepped onto the stage, so he had instigated them to come and ask for help. However, Yin Chujo had a good relationship with Ji Kong and Jisoo, so she was happy to help. Therefore, she gave them a pile of talismans and a few sacks of chili noodles, and said a few words. Ji Kong and Jesus' faces turned red. This is not very good. These methods are not very bright. It is not fair to win. Yin Chujo snorted coldly. It's up to you. Anyway, I have already given you a way out. Whether you use it or not is up to you. Also, do you think those people from the Bitter Zen sect will talk about being above board and above board? An eminent monk once said that being merciful to the enemy is a lack of wisdom. It's up to you. Ji Kong and Jisoo looked at each other. How come they had never seen such a saying in the Buddhist scriptures? Junior brother Lonesome, which scripture did you say the last time? Ji Kong asked curiously. Yin Chujo put her palms together and said shamelessly, "Master Lonesome said it. Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much, Ji Kong." Jisoo. The two of them were still a little hesitant. After saying a few words, they took their leave. They must have gone to find a Master Li to ask for his opinion. Yin Chujo smiled. She casually ate something and went to bed to rest. The next morning, everyone once again arrived at the competition venue. Today there were many more people who came to watch the show than yesterday. Compared to the debate of scriptures, this Buddhist power competition was even more exciting. Yuan Tong and the others from the Bitter Zen sect looked at Yin Chujo with unkind eyes. They made up their minds. No matter who was the first to go on stage, they would challenge Lonesome and kill him. Yin Chujo naturally saw the murderous eyes of those people. This guy still looked innocent and harmless on the surface, but in her heart, she pursed her lips. She was not an idiot. She would never go on stage. Want to kill her? Forget about the door, there was no window. Even the crack of the door was blocked. Chapter 5185 did not dare to accept the challenge. Master Defong went on stage and announced the rules of the second round of the Buddhist power competition. The competition was divided into 10 rounds, and the winner of the first 6 rounds would be the winner. This round of the competition was still restricted to only the round-word generation of the bitter Zen sect and the silent generation of the Zen sect. The people of the bitter Zen sect were full of confidence in this round of the competition. Their round-word generation disciples were much more powerful and experienced than the silent generation disciples of the Zen sect. This round of the Buddhist power competition was a sure win for the bitter Zen sect. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. As soon as Master Defang finished reading the rules of the competition, Yuan Tong jumped onto the competition stage. His gaze fell on Yun Chujio and said with slight sarcasm, "This penniless monk, Yuan Tong of the bitter Zen sect, challenges the loneliness of the Zen sect. Don't tell me you don't dare to accept the challenge?" Everyone's eyes were all focused on Yun Chujio, waiting for her answer. Yun Chujio put her palms together and said indifferently, "Monks don't lie. This penniless monk doesn't dare to accept the challenge." Yuan Tong. The crowd instantly exploded and discussed animatedly. TSK, this lonely monk is so cowardly. Isn't he afraid of losing the face of the Zen sect? He should accept the challenge, even if it's for the face of the Zen sect. It's too embarrassing. What you said makes sense. That lonely is the true disciple of the Zen sect's sect master. It doesn't make sense for him to retreat without a fight. Of course, there were also people who disagreed. They said, "You can't say that. You know that you can't win, but you still went on stage. You will make the Zen sect lose a round. Why don't you just admit defeat and not go on stage?" That's right. Not everyone has the courage to admit that they are weak. This little monk Lone is really impressive. Yuan Tong almost died from anger on the stage. The words that he had prepared earlier were instantly useless. He thought that lonely monk would find all kinds of excuses to shirk off the stage and expose his lies one by one. However, he never expected that he would say it so bluntly. He didn't dare. Yuan Tong saw Yin Chujio's calm expression and became even angrier. He thought to himself that if he said something worse, he didn't believe that he would still refuse to go on stage. Therefore, he snorted coldly, "Lone, aren't you too useless? You don't even have the courage to step onto the stage?" "Amit ba now." The lonely little monk put his palms together and said magnanimously. Yuan Tong clenched his teeth. As the successor disciple of the sect leader of the Zen sect, you act like a coward. Don't you feel ashamed? Amit ba now. Lonely little monk said without any fluctuation in his tone. Yuan Tong couldn't believe his ears. He had already called him a coward, but this lonely could still keep his cool? Was this person too strong-willed or too thick-skinned? After all, Yuan Tong was a monk, so it was inappropriate for him to scold other unpleasant words. He said disdainfully, "Since your Chan sect's Lone doesn't dare to accept the challenge, who will come up to the stage to compete? If no one dares to accept the challenge, then this round will be considered my victory." At this time Yin Chujio said, "Wait, this penniless monk has an unknown matter. Can you give this penniless monk some answers?" Yuan Tong looked at Yin Chujio suspiciously and thought, could it be that this Lone has thought it through? He wants to go up to the stage. Therefore he said patiently, "Just tell me." Yin Chujio smiled faintly, "If someone gives me a gift, but I refuse, then how do you determine the ownership of this gift?" Yuan Tong curled his lips and snorted in disdain. "Is there a need to ask? Naturally, it belongs to the person who gave you the gift. As the saying goes, it belongs to the original owner." Chapter 5186 returned to the original owner after hearing Yuan Tong's words. The smile on Yin Chujio's face was still faint. However, in Yuan Tong's eyes, it felt a little strange. At this time, Yin Chujio's clear voice sounded again. "In that case, I'll return the so-called cowardly turtle to you." Yuan Tong was stunned for a moment before he realized what Yin Chujio meant. His face immediately flushed red, wishing that he could strangle Yin Chujio to death. The crowd immediately burst into laughter. This lonely little monk was really too interesting. With just a few words he had gotten that Yuan Tong involved. That Yuan Tong was basically cursing himself to the point that he couldn't be any more stupid. Yuan Tong was panting, but he couldn't do anything about Yin Chujio. He gritted his teeth and said, "This penniless monk doesn't want to argue with you. Does anyone from your Zen sect want to come up and accept the challenge?" As soon as Yuan Tong finished speaking, someone from the Zen sect voiced out to accept the challenge. The one who spoke was Ji Wang. He was the first person to represent the Zen sect in the debate yesterday, but he lost to Yuan Guang in the end. He wanted to regain some face, so he voiced out to accept the challenge. Moreover, Ji Wang's cultivation level was also considered outstanding among the JI generation, so he wasn't reckless in accepting the challenge. Yuan Tong sized up Ji Wang and said arrogantly, "I'm at the 9th level of the Black Lotus, but you're only at the 8th level of the Black Lotus. You're no match for me at all. I advise you to learn from that lonely guy and admit defeat. Otherwise, regardless of life or death, if you lose your life in this competition, it won't be worth it. There's no point in talking. Let's do it," Hope said coldly. Yuan Tong curled his lips and said, "Since you're courting death, this penniless monk will grant you your wish." As Yuan Tong spoke, a black lotus materialized in his hand. The black petals instantly turned into sharp arrows and attacked Hope. Yuan Tong didn't dare to be negligent. His Buddhist power also condensed into a black lotus. It spun quickly and scattered all the sharp arrows. Then the black petals also turned into sharp arrows and attacked Yuan Tong. Yuan Tong didn't expect Yuan Tong to not only break his attack, but also turn the defense into an attack. He couldn't help but frown. It seemed that although Yuan Tong's cultivation was at the 8th level of the Black Lotus, he was about to break through. He had to be more careful. The two of them fought back and forth. An hour had passed, and they were actually locked in a stalemate. "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Yuan Tong was a little flustered. He was much older than his Hope. If he continued to delay, the situation would be very disadvantageous to him. He had to end the battle as soon as possible. He gritted his teeth. No poison, no husband. There was no honor on this competition stage. Since this Hope was seeking death, he would fulfill it. Thinking of this, Yuan Tong took out a black cylinder and hid it in his sleeve. Soon, he found an opportunity to fight with Hope in close combat. He pressed the cylinder in his sleeve. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several arrows shot out from the black cylinder. Hope was not prepared at all. In addition, he was too close and was hit by several arrows. However, it was a good thing that he dodged the vital parts. Although his injuries were very serious, he still managed to save his life. Pinhope swallowed a pill to stop the bleeding and angrily asked, "Yuan Tong, we are having a Buddha power competition. How can you hurt people with your arrows?" Yuan Tong laughed arrogantly and said, "Aren't you a little too naive? This is a competition stage. Naturally, it is based on one's own ability. Do you still need to rely on me for your own incompetence?" Hope's injuries were not light to begin with, so he directly spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Chapter 5187 Ji Kong's appearance on the stage, hoping that he would faint. A Zen disciple immediately went up to the stage and carried him off the stage for treatment. Among the crowd of onlookers, someone recognized the black cylinder in Yuan Tong's hand and said in surprise, "That is the King of Hell's Storm Needle from the Qing family of the Valley of Fog. Its power is no small matter. It can be said to be a sharp weapon for a sneak attack. However, I heard that it takes a lot of time and effort to make the King of Hell's Storm Needle. The Qing family of the Valley of Fog rarely sells it to the public. I wonder where Yuan Tong got it from. No matter where he got it from, with this thing, his strength will increase a lot. What a good life. It's a pity for the Hope of the Zen sect. If Yuan Tong didn't have the King of Hell's Storm Needle, he might not have been defeated." "You can't say that. Let's not talk about Yuan Tong anymore. Everyone on the stage is showing off their abilities. It's their ability to have treasures." Ji Kong and Ji Su had a complicated look on their faces. After listening to Yun Chujia's suggestion yesterday, they felt that it was a little immoral, so they hesitated whether they should do as she said. However, now that they saw that the people from the bitter Zen sect were not only immoral, they didn't have any morals at all. They had nothing to worry about. At this moment, Master Defong had already announced the result of the first round. Yuan Tong from the bitter Zen sect had won. Yuan Tong was very proud. The Zen sect is just so. I advise you not to go on stage. Just admit defeat. And don't embarrass yourselves. TSK, you actually accused this penniless monk of using the King of Hell's needle. This competition stage is not a game. Naturally, you have to give it your all. Your Zen sect is really pedantic. I see that your Zen sect's silent generation are all a bunch of idiots. It doesn't make any difference whether they come up or not. Not to mention our bitter Zen sect is full of talents. Even I alone can beat you 6 rounds in a row. Yuan Tong was obviously a little too pleased with himself. He wanted to satisfy his mouth before going down. However, at this time, someone jumped onto the competition stage. Yuan Tong, this penniless monk Ji Kong, will exchange moves with you. Yuan Tong was stunned and then sneered. Are you a fool? I have already finished the competition. Our bitter Zen sect will send someone else to compete with you. Ji Kong said coldly. You said before that one person was enough to defeat all the Ji generation of our Zen sect. Monks don't lie. Could it be that you were lying just now? Yuan Tong said angrily. I was just saying that. Ji Kong's face turned even colder. Just saying that. This competition stage is not for playing house. Everything you said must be counted. Of course, you can also admit defeat now. When the crowd heard Ji Kong's words, they began to jeer. They argued that Yuan Tong could not go back on his words. Yuan Tong was so angry that he almost died. If he had known this would happen, he would have stepped down from the stage and stopped talking nonsense. However, when he thought about it, even though Ji Kong was also at the 8th level of the Black Lotus, it was obvious that he had just broken through not long ago. There was no need for him to be afraid of him at all. Moreover, he still had the King of Hell's Storm Needle. Since Ji Kong was seeking death, he would grant him his wish. Thinking of this, Yuan Tong sneered. Alright, in that case, I will meet you. However, just as Yuan Tong released half of the Black Lotus, Ji Kong threw a big sack at him. Yuan Tong subconsciously took a few steps back. When the big sack landed on the ground, the chili inside flew in all directions. Yuan Tong choked and burst into tears. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. At this moment, Ji Kong threw another stack of talismans at him. The sounds of explosions rang out one after another, accompanied by Yuan Tong's miserable screams. He never expected that the Zen sect disciples, who had always been upright and pedantic, would be so sinister. Chapter 5188 Jesus' appearance on the stage. Yuan Tong's face was choked by the chili pepper, and his snot and tears flowed out. He was blasted by the talisman again. Although he used the Buddha's power to protect himself later on, his battle prowess was also greatly reduced. Ji Kong naturally would not give him a chance to catch his breath. The black Buddha lotus petals turned into arrows and shot towards him. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yuan Tong dodged in an extremely sorry state and cursed angrily. Ji Kong, you actually used such a despicable method. You are a monk in vain. Ji Kong sneered. You are just giving him a taste of his own medicine. This is a competition stage, of course you have to do your best. Yuan Tong choked, but he did not know how to refute Ji Kong. He could only grit his teeth and continue to fight Ji Kong. His physical strength and Buddhist power had been greatly consumed by his previous hopes. Now that he was choked by the chili, coupled with his injuries from the talisman, how could he be Ji Kong's match? Yuan Tong wanted to use the King of Hell's Storm Needle, but Ji Kong didn't give him a chance to get close, so he couldn't do anything. After dozens of rounds, Yuan Tong was accidentally injured by Ji Kong's Buddhist energy. He screamed and fell off the stage. Yuan Tong's injuries weren't too severe. He got up on his own, but when he saw Master Xuanzi's expression, he was immediately filled with great fear. If he hadn't shouted on the stage and directly left the stage, he wouldn't have lost the second round. But now the score had become 1-1. Master Xuanzi would definitely not let him off. In stark contrast, the people from the Zen sect. Although Ji Kong's method was somewhat special, no matter what, It was good that he won. After all, the people from the bitter Zen sect were the first to use dirty tricks. Jikong did not say anything. After Master Defeng announced the results of the competition, he directly went down the competition stage. He knew his own limits. If he had not used the method that Yun Chujio had taught him, he might not have been able to win against Yuan Tong. Therefore, he decided to quit while he was ahead. Because Jikong had won one round, the disciples of the Zen sect were confident. Immediately, one of the disciples requested to fight and went up to the competition stage. However, there was a gap between the two sides. In the next 3 rounds, the Zen sect lost all of them, and the score became 4-1. Master Liao had expected this, so he was not too disappointed. It was okay to lose, since there was still the 3rd round. In the 6th round, the bitter Zen sect sent Xian Hu's disciple, Yuan Guang, up to the stage. Yuan Guang was confused by Yin Chujio's words of truth and falsehood. It was extremely embarrassing. Therefore, as soon as he got on the stage, he shouted, "Lonesome, if you still have some guts, come up and compete with me. Otherwise, you're a coward." Yin Chujio still looked innocent and harmless. She put her palms together and said lightly, "This penniless monk doesn't have the guts. You'd better find someone else." Yuan Guang curled his lips. "Are you still a man? You don't even have the courage to go on the stage? What a joke. Don't talk to me about returning things to the original owner. Those are just excuses. You are a coward, Lonesome. Your Zen sect is a bunch of cowards, a bunch of trash." Yin Chujio did not care about these words at all. She had heard worse words before, and they were nothing at all. However, the other members of the Zen sect were different. The Zen sect was one of the top forces in the Chongshao continent. Wherever they went, they were flattered and flattered. How could they stand such provocations and curses? Jisoo could not stand it anymore, and jumped onto the competition stage. Yin Chujio frowned. Jisoo was really impatient. Fortunately, she had taught him 2 moves earlier. She hoped that this little fool would not be at a disadvantage. Chapter 5189. A good monk does not suffer losses in front of his eyes. Yuan Guang sized up Jisoo with a look of disdain. He was at the 2nd level of the Blue Buddha Lotus. Among the Yuan generation of the bitter Zen sect, he was second only to Master Xuanzi's successor, Yuan Ji. Jisoo had just broken through to the 8th level of the Black Buddha Lotus. The gap between them was huge. "Since you came up to die, don't blame me for being ruthless. Take this," Yuan Guang said as he released a Blue Buddha Lotus. Who knew that just as he released half of the Blue Lotus, Jisoo threw a big sack at him. The moment he threw the sack, Yuan Guang used his Buddhist power to protect himself. Therefore, the chili that spread out from the sack did not have much of an effect on him. Even though Jisoo threw a lot of talismans over later, he only forced Yuan Guang to take a few steps back. It did not cause much of an effect on him. At this moment, Yuan Guang's cultivation base was much higher than Yuan Tong's. And Yuan Guang was prepared for this. Yuan Guang sneered. "It's okay to use such trivial tricks once. But you want to use them a second time? I'm not an idiot like Yuan Tong. These things are useless to me." Yuan Tong tightened his hands under his sleeves when he heard that. But he didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. He was a sinner in the bitter Zen sect now. How could he dare to offend others? Hey Shinjio, who was sitting behind Master Liao, couldn't bear to look at Jisoo. Was Jisoo stupid? Jikong had already used this trick once. You can use it if you want, but you have to be flexible, right? Don't copy the exact same trick. She was so worried. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Jisoo couldn't help but panic when he saw that his sneak attack didn't succeed. But he couldn't leave the stage just like that. So he fought with Yuan Guang. However, the difference in strength between him and Yuan Guang was not ordinary. So how could he be a match for Yuan Guang? He was forced to retreat continuously, looking very pathetic. If it was in the past, Jisoo would definitely hold on. Even if he knew that he might die, he would not leave the stage for the sake of the reputation of the Zen sect. However, he was now different. What a joke. That female devil had told him that a good monk would not be at a disadvantage in front of him. If he could not beat her, he would run away. Only a fool would be waiting to die. Moreover, the female devil had said that there was no need to admit defeat, or anything like that. He could just run away. Otherwise, the other party might take advantage of him admitting defeat and suddenly attack. If that was the case, it would be extremely tragic. Thinking of this, Jisoo found an opportunity and directly jumped down from the competition stage. After landing on the ground, he said, "I've lost." Everyone was dumbfounded. This Jisoo was really thick-skinned. Master Li nodded. He felt that not only was his disciple right, he had done the right thing. It was obvious that Yuan Guang was not a broad-minded person. If Jisoo admitted defeat on the stage, he might secretly make a move. At this moment, no one expected that Yuan Guang, who was on the stage, would actually raise his hand towards Jisoo. Several arrows flew towards Jisoo's back. Jisoo was already a little dispirited after losing the competition. Moreover, he felt that since he had already jumped off the stage, Yuan Guang would definitely not attack him again. So he was not prepared at all. The competition stage was a distance away from the surrounding stands. Therefore, even if a Master Lai and the others noticed Yuan Guang's actions, they did not have the time to save Jisoo. They did not even have the time to warn him. Yin Chujia's pupil shrank. She did not care too much, and had the little black bird curse Jisoo immediately. Chapter 5190. You're a fake. Just as everyone thought Jisoo was dead for sure, Jisoo suddenly staggered and miraculously dodged most of the arrows. Only a few arrows hit his butt. Yuan Guang, who was on the stage, was secretly resentful. However, every time the King of Hell's Storm Needle fired, it had to reload the arrows, so he could only give up. Moreover, Master Lai had already jumped off the stage, so he had no chance to attack again. Master Lai first checked Jisoo's injuries, then looked at Yuan Guang sharply. Jisoo still admitted defeat. Why do you still want to stab him in the back? Yuan Guang snorted coldly. He didn't admit defeat on the stage, so it doesn't count. Yuan Guang didn't put Master Lai in his eyes at all. He didn't believe that this old thing would still dare to go on stage and compete with him. If this old thing dared to go on stage, his master wouldn't just stand by and watch. Anyway, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Master Lai was extremely angry. This Yuan Guang was trying to twist logic. Not to mention Jisoo had already admitted defeat verbally. Even if he hadn't said that he would admit defeat, he had already left the stage and already lost. That Yuan Guang had absolutely no reason to sneak attack. Master Lai was about to refute, but he did not expect Xian Hui to jump over arrogantly. Master Lai, what right do you have to lecture my disciple? Your disciple is useless and deserves to be beaten. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for not teaching him well as a master. Master Lai was so angry that he was speechless. No wonder that Yuan Guang was so shameless. It turned out that the upper beam was not upright, and the lower beam was crooked. Master Li suppressed his anger and said, Jisoo has already left the competition stage. Yuan Guang shouldn't have hurt him. You have to give me an explanation, or else. Or else what? Master Li, the score in this round is already 5-1. If your Zen sect can't afford to lose, then you say you can't afford to lose. How dare you play a scoundrel? This is really an eye-opener for this old monk. Xian Hui said sarcastically. Master Lai's temper had always been good, but at this moment, he was also furious. This Xian Hui was simply unreasonable. He actually said it wasn't reasonable. This was simply outrageous. The other Zen sect members were also furious. This Xian Hui and Yuan Guang were really too shameless. Master Liao's face was very cold. If he backed down now, not only would the world laugh at him, but it would also chill the hearts of the Zen sect disciples. If the bitter Zen sect didn't give a satisfactory explanation, then there was no need for the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly to continue. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Just as Master Liao was about to stand up and negotiate with Master Xuanji, he heard someone behind him say faintly, "Master, I will go up and meet that Yuan Guang." Master Liao was stunned. He turned his head and looked at the person who spoke with an unquestionable gaze. "Lonesome, what did you say?" Yin Chujia's expression was no different from usual. However, if one were to look closely, one would discover that her eyes were filled with killing intent. "Master, I said that I will go up and meet that Yuan Guang. Since he made a move on the competition stage, then let's settle the matter on the competition stage." Master Liao felt that Yin Chujia was most likely crazy. "What's wrong with you? Don't you have any points? You're a fake. You don't even have Buddha energy, yet you still want to go up and take care of Yuan Guang. Aren't you courting death?" Moreover, Master Liao felt that even if Yin Chujio took the risk of exposing her flaws, she was still no match for Yuan Guang. Yin Chujio had suffered another lightning strike at Mount Meru previously, and her spiritual power had also broken through from the 5th level to the 8th level of the extreme spiritual realm, which was equivalent to the 8th level of the Black Buddha Lotus, similar to Jisoo. Chapter 5191. Literary Battle or Martial Battle. Master Liao originally wanted to reject her directly, but when he saw the killing intent in Yun Chujia's eyes, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth and asked, "Master Liao, what do you think? Have you thought it through? You must know that if anything goes wrong, the consequences will be very serious." Master Liao's words were very reserved, but Yin Chujio naturally understood that he was worried about her identity being exposed. She curled the corners of her lips slightly. "Master, don't worry. Your disciple has his own plans." Master Liao hesitated for a moment, but when he saw the arrogant manner of Xian Hui and her disciple, he gritted his teeth and decided to take a gamble. Since this Yin Chujio could even take care of the jade glass Bodhi tree and Buddha's candle, she should be able to do it this time too, right? Seeing that Master Liao didn't say anything, Yin Chujio knew that he had tacitly agreed. Only then did she slowly walk to the bottom of the competition stage and said to a Master Lei, "Martial uncle, please bring senior brother Jisoo over to heal his injuries first. Leave this place to me." Master Lei did not know what Yin Chujio was up to, but he knew that Yin Chujio was full of evil thoughts, so he nodded and glanced sharply at Yuan Guang and Xian Hui. Then, he helped Jisoo, who had a few arrows in his but back to the stands. Yin Chujio did not pay attention to Xian Hui, but looked at Yuan Guang on the stage. "Yuan Guang, didn't you challenge me before? I wonder if you still have the guts to fight me now." Yuan Guang pursed his lips and snorted. "Why wouldn't I dare? But you're finally willing to go on stage? TSK, why aren't you afraid of death now?" Yin Chujio put her palms together and said calmly, "It's just that the time hasn't come." Yuan Guang was stunned. "Time hasn't come? What time?" "Guess," Yin Chujio said calmly. "Yuan Guang." Yuan Guang was so angry that he choked. He said angrily, "Cut the crap and get on the stage." "Of course I have to get on the stage, but let's make a deal. If I win this round, your bitter Zen sect can't say that this round doesn't count," Yin Chujio said lightly. Yuan Guang snorted. "Of course." Yin Chujio looked at Master Xuanji. "Master Xuanji, what do you think?" Master Xuanji thought that Lonesome might be a variable in this 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly. He could use this opportunity to let Yuan Guang kill him, so that there wouldn't be any more trouble. He didn't consider the fact that Yuan Guang couldn't defeat Yin Chujio at all. After all, to outsiders, Yin Chujio was only at the 9th level of the Yellow Buddha Lotus. She wasn't even a Black Buddha Lotus. Hence, Master Xuanji nodded his head and said, "This round naturally counts." Yin Chujio curled her lips slightly and said, "With Master Xuanzi's words, I am relieved." After Yin Chujio finished speaking, she tiptoed and leaped onto the competition stage lightly. As she was currently disguised as the innocent and harmless little monk Lonely, her appearance was extremely deceptive. The people below the stage could not help but sweat for her. Someone shouted, Little Master Lonely, you have to be careful. Don't be ambushed by him with the King of Hell's needle. Little Master Lonely, you can't let your guard down. He's a sinister person, so don't be careless. Little Master Lonely, if you can't beat him, hurry up and get off the stage. You have to hurry up and run, so that you won't be schemed against by shameless people. Yuan Guang was so angry that he almost choked. These damn idiots were actually all speaking up for Lonesome. Could they all be the scapegoats that Lonesome hired? Ba, are we going to fight or fight? Yin Chujiu asked calmly. Yuan Guang frowned. How are we going to fight, and how are we going to fight? Chapter 5192. When Do Yin Chujiu smiled faintly. Martial arts is the same as before. If we fight directly, it will be time-consuming, laborious, and uncivilized. As for Wendo, it's very simple. I've heard that the purer the Buddhist energy, the more lifelike the lotus it condenses. Well, compete to see whose lotus is more lifelike. Of course I won't force you. You can choose either. I guess you can only choose martial arts. After all, it's obvious that you're an uneducated person. You can't even tell the truth from the lies. Yuan Guang frowned. From his heart, he naturally wanted to choose martial arts. After all, his cultivation level was much higher than Yin Chujiu's. He could easily kill Yin Chujiu. However, he had lost to Yin Chujiu during the debate. This was a great humiliation. If he didn't agree to the debate, wouldn't it make people think that he had no knowledge? He thought about it again. This loan was only at the 9th stage of the Yellow Buddha Lotus realm. The Buddha Lotus he condensed would definitely not be as realistic as his, so there was no harm in agreeing to him. Moreover, after he won, he would find an opportunity to plot against him. Presumably, this loan would not be able to avoid it. He made up his mind and sneered. All right, then we will carry out the literary competition. Yin Chujiu nodded and then said to Master Dafeng, Master Dafeng, please let the leaders of both sides confirm it. If I win later, someone will raise a question. Master Dafeng immediately asked for the opinions of Master Xuanji and Master Liaowu. And the two didn't have any objections. Yuan Guang impatiently urged, Can it be done now? All right, let's begin. Yin Chujiu said lightly. Yuan Guang curled his lips in disdain, and then began to release his Buddhist power to condense the Buddha lotus. Very soon, a huge blue Buddha lotus appeared on the stage. This blue Buddha lotus was several times more realistic than the one that Yuan Guang had released during the previous competition. If the crowd did not know that this was the manifestation of Buddhist power, they would probably really think that this was a real lotus. Yuan Guang was very proud, especially when he noticed that Yin Chujiu had not made a move. He felt that Yin Chujiu must have been timid and did not even have the courage to release the lotus flower. He snorted coldly. Lone, why haven't you released your lotus flower yet? Did you give up because you felt that you were no match for me? Ba, don't be anxious. This penniless monk is just brewing. Yin Chujiu said calmly with her palms together. The look on Yuan Guang's face became even more contemptuous. The lower the cultivation, the slower the speed at which the Buddha energy was released. This loan was really not an ordinary good-for-nothing. Below the stage, Master Liao's heart was in his throat. He thought to himself, she is just a fake. Let alone Buddha lotus. She doesn't even have the slightest bit of Buddha energy. Is she stupid? She actually brought up such a competition content. She is simply digging a hole for herself. The surrounding spectators also revealed a look of understanding. It seemed that this lonely little monk was prepared to retreat in the face of difficulties. He was also a fool, since he clearly knew that his strength was insufficient. Why did he go on stage? Why did he still propose such a competition method like the literary competition? Wasn't this asking for humiliation? Yuan Guang, who was on the competition stage, was already somewhat impatient. He urged, Lonely, this competition has a time limit. If you still don't release the Buddha lotus, you will lose. He calculated in his heart that once Master Defeng announced the result of the competition, he would take advantage of Lonesome's carelessness to trigger the King of Hell's storm needle to take his life. At this moment, Yin Chujio said indifferently, "Are your eyes not good? I've already released the lotus." Chapter 5193. Have you seen the lotus? As soon as Yin Chujio's words left her mouth, not to mention Yuan Guang, even the people below the stage were dumbfounded. Released? Where? Why didn't they see it? Of course, in order to avoid being told that their eyes were not working properly, everyone tried their best to widen their eyes, but they still did not see anything. Yuan Guang also looked carefully, but he did not see the lotus that Yin Chujio mentioned. He could not help but sneer. "Lonesome, is there something wrong with your brain? Where is your lotus?" Yin Chujio pressed her palms together. As her sleeves fluttered, Yuan Guang smelled the fragrance of a lotus. To be exact, although the smell was the fragrance of a lotus, it seemed to be different from ordinary lotuses. It was longer and longer, even calming people's minds. Not only did Yuan Guang smell the fragrance of the lotus, but everyone below the stage also smelled the faint fragrance of the lotus. After feeling that the fragrance of the lotus could calm one's mind, everyone could not help but take a few deep breaths. At this moment, Yin Chujio put her palms together and said calmly, "When the Buddha lotus is realistic to the extreme, it will transcend the limitations of the secular world. Therefore, some people might not be able to see it. Of course, if one has the wisdom root, they would still be able to see it. Moreover, the Buddha lotus that everyone can see is different. It all depends on one's own luck. However, the fragrance of the lotus cannot be faked. Everyone, who do you think released the lotus that is more realistic?" Everyone was a little confused by her words. No one was willing to admit that they did not have a wisdom root, so someone shouted, "Ah, I saw it. This lotus is indeed 10,000 times more realistic than that person. Even the stamen is very realistic." Once someone took the lead, someone immediately said, "I saw it too. The lotus that I saw is not only realistic, but also twice as big as that person's. It's really too realistic." "Yes, I saw it too. And me." When Yuan Guang heard everyone's words, he was so angry that he started to twitch. Where was it? Why didn't he see it? Could it be that he did not have a wisdom root? No. This lone must be spouting nonsense. He did not release anything at all. However, the lotus fragrance was very strange. Could it be that she had concocted the medicine? The more Yuan Guang thought about it, the more he felt that it was the case. He shouted, "Shut up. Lonesome, stop being so mysterious. You didn't release anything at all." Yin Chujio shook her head. "Yuan Guang, it seems that you don't have any intelligence at all. No wonder you can't even tell if it's true or not. If this penniless monk is lying, then why did everyone below the stage see it? And they smelled the fragrance of the lotus?" Yuan Guang cursed angrily. "That's because they're all stupid. A bunch of idiots. They were all fooled by you." Once Yuan Guang's words left his mouth, everyone below the stage couldn't take it anymore. "Damn it, who are you calling stupid? You're the one who's stupid. Even your hair is stupid. Oh right, you don't have any hair at all, ha ha ha. That's right, don't be a monk if you don't have wisdom root. How embarrassing. Even us secular people can see it, but you can't see it. You're simply blind." He even plotted against that Zen sect disciple just now. It's simply immoral. Naturally, Buddha doesn't like him. It would be strange if he could see the Buddha lotus. Yuan Guang's breathing was ragged, but the law didn't punish the masses. He was momentarily stunned. At this time, Master Defong said, "Amit Ba Lonesome, we're currently competing. You have to let most people see the Buddha lotus. You just said that when the Buddha lotus is realistic to the extreme, it will transcend the limits of the secular world. Then, please reduce the degree of the Buddha lotus." Chapter 5194. The herd mentality. Yuan Guang's eyes lit up when he heard Master Defang's words. He shouted, "Lonesome, Master Defang is right. You must let most people see the lotus. Otherwise it doesn't count. Yun Chujio ignored him when she heard that. She looked at Master Defong and smiled without saying anything. Although her smile was innocent and harmless, it made Master Defong panic. Just when Master Defong was panicking, he heard Yun Chujio ask with a smile, "Master Defong, did you see the Buddha lotus?" Master Defang's pupils constricted. Of course he didn't see it. However, if he said he didn't see it, didn't it mean that he had no wisdom root? Where would his face be? If he said he saw it, it would be very disadvantageous to the bitter Zen sect in Yuan Guang. Seriously, he was worried to death. At this time, Yuan Guang shouted, "Master Defang, you didn't see it either, did you?" This loan is deliberately mystifying things. In fact, he didn't release the Buddha lotus at all. The fragrance of the lotus must have been forged by him, using medicinal pills. Master Defang was in a dilemma, so he simply didn't say anything. However, Yuan Guang didn't give up and continued to ask, "Master Defang, say something. Did you not see it either?" Master Defang wished he could shut his mouth. What an idiot. Fortunately, he thought of an excuse and said, "Lonesome, it doesn't matter if I saw it or not. The key is that you have to let the majority of the people present see it." Yun Chujio nodded and looked at the crowd. Not everyone has a wisdom root, so it's not strange that some people can't see lotus. Which one of you didn't see lotus raise her hand? The crowd below the competition stage looked at each other. No one wanted to admit that they didn't have a wisdom root, so only a few people raised their hands. Yuan Guang saw this and shouted angrily, "Why didn't you raise your hands? You clearly didn't see anything. Don't tell me you really believe the words of a wisdom root. You're really stupid to actually be fooled by this lonely lie." Some people were still hesitating, but after hearing Yuan Guang's words, they immediately gave up the idea of raising their hands. Who the fuck is stupid? You are the most stupid. Master Defang was speechless. Who is this Yuan Guang? Yun Chujio curled the corners of her mouth slightly. People have vanity and herd mentality. Although she didn't see anything, she was unwilling to admit it. Master Defang, did you see it? Most of the people had seen the lotus. Moreover, the lotus released by this penniless monk was not only extremely realistic but also fragrant. It was clear who won and who lost at a glance. Can you announce the result of the competition? Master Defang's face was a little stiff. Except for the people from the bitter Zen sect who raised their hands, everyone else had basically tacitly acknowledged that they had seen the lotus. Could it be that this lone had really released the lotus? The reason why he did not see it was because he did not have a wisdom root. Just as he was about to announce the results of the competition, Xianhui said angrily, "Our bitter Zen sect did not see a single person. Could it be that the people from our bitter Zen sect do not have a wisdom root?" Lone did not release anything. His little trick can only make an ignorant fool. Therefore, the winner of this competition should be Yuan Guang. The spectators, who were called idiots, were naturally not happy. They immediately began to clamor in dissatisfaction. Seeing this, Xianhui shouted, "All of you shut up, or don't blame this old monk for being impolite." Xianhui's shout contained Buddhist power. As a result, it shocked everyone until their scalps went numb. Everyone was embarrassed and did not say a word. Chapter 5195 Buddha Yuan Guang had Xianhui's support, so he immediately felt confident. He sneered at Yun Chujio and said, "Lonesome, you heard it, right? Your little tricks are useless. You're the one who lost." Seeing that the people of the bitter Zen sect admitted that they didn't see Buddha lotus, Master Defang also echoed, "That's right. I didn't see Buddha lotus either. Lonesome, you can't count this." Master Liaowu and the others wanted to object, but they did not see it. Not raising their hands just now had already reached the bottom line of their morals. Now they could not open their eyes and lie. Only Jisoo covered his butt and shouted, "Nonsense! I saw Buddha lotus, and it was golden." He hated Yuan Guang and the Zen of bitterness to death. If he had not stumbled and fell, it would not only be an injury to his butt, but also his life. Right now, he didn't care about the commandment of monks not to lie. He wished he could just kill Yuan Guang. Yuan Guang said disdainfully, "Golden? What a joke. Golden lotus is a legendary existence. Don't tell me you think yellow is golden? Besides, loneliness didn't release anything at all. How could you see it? Did you hallucinate after being hurt by me? Ha ha ha." Jisoo had just mentioned the golden lotus as a passing remark. Now that Yuan Guang had rebuked him, he couldn't help but be angry and didn't know how to retort. At this moment, Yin Chuzhou said calmly, "Yuan Guang, don't be so full of yourself. If it really is the golden lotus, what will you do?" Yuan Guang was stunned at first, then he laughed out loud. "Lonesome, are you talking nonsense? If you can release the golden lotus, I will be at your disposal. I have no objections." Yin Chuzhou raised her eyebrows slightly. "Are you serious?" "Of course I am," Yuan Guang said casually. The reason why he was so sure was that even Master Xuanji was only at the 6th level of the Red Lotus. Even Master Xuanji could not release the golden lotus, let alone Lonesome. Yin Chuzhou smiled faintly. "Not only can this penniless monk release the golden lotus, but I can also turn it into a physical object." Yuan Guang laughed even more savagely when he heard that. "Lonesome, it seems that you are seriously ill. Your Buddha energy cannot turn into a physical object at all. Furthermore, do you know that the Buddha lotus, as the only Buddha plant in the world, has long been extinct? If you can turn it into a physical object, you must be Buddha." Yin Chuzhou pressed her palms together. "Amipa, although this penniless monk is not the Buddha, I am the reincarnation of a Buddha." As soon as Yin Chuzhou said that, Master Liao almost jumped up from his seat. This troublemaker really dared to say that. Buddha? She was not even a monk, okay? The people of the Zen sect basically knew Yin Chuzhou's identity, so they were all shocked. Jisoo was so shocked that he sat on the ground and cried out in pain. The audience below the stage was stunned at first, then they started to talk about it. Did I hear wrong? Little Master Lonely said that he is the reincarnation of the Buddha? Is he kidding? Is this possible? How is it not possible? Little Master Lonely looks different from ordinary people, especially that pure and harmless temperament. I think it's more or less the same. You're judging people by their looks. The reincarnation of the son of Buddha is not just talk. He has to show proof. Chapter 5196 Buddha Lotus Lonesome. You really dare to say that? The reincarnation of Buddha? Why don't you say that you are the reincarnation of Buddha? Aren't you afraid that the wind will hurt your tongue? Yuan Guang said sarcastically. Yin Chuzhou's expression was indifferent. Monks don't lie. I am only the reincarnation of Buddha, not the reincarnation of Buddha. Naturally, I won't say anything. The corners of the mouths of the Zen sect's people twitched violently. Just pretend. Don't lie. Your lies have no limits. Naturally, Yuan Guang did not believe Yin Chuzhou's words. The ridicule on his face became even more obvious. Since you said that you are the reincarnation of the Buddha, then you should condense the Buddha lotus physical body now. Otherwise, you are talking nonsense. Yin Chuzhou nodded. Of course, but don't forget what I said just now. If I can condense the Buddha lotus physical body, you are at my disposal. Yuan Guang snorted. Of course. After hearing Yuan Guang's words, Yin Chuzhou sat down cross-legged and began to knock the wooden fish. Yuan Guang pursed his lips and didn't say anything. He was sure that Yin Chuzhou was deliberately mystifying and would soon be exposed. Although Master Liao's expression was normal, he wanted to scold Yin Chuzhou in his heart. Wasn't this digging a hole for himself? Using Buddha's power to condense a Buddha lotus body? This was no different from a joke. If she could really do it, he would really take her, this fake monk, as his disciple. Soon 15 minutes had passed. Yin Chuzhou was still knocking on the wooden fish and chanting the Lotus Flower Sutra. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yuan Guang saw Yin Chuzhou's reaction and was even more certain that she was stalling for time. He urged her. Lonesome, if you still can't condense the Buddha energy into a Buddha lotus, you'll lose this round. Yun Chujio stopped striking the wooden fish and sighed. The longer I chant, the more Buddha lotuses I can condense. But you interrupted me, so I can only condense one. Moreover, such an opportunity is hard to come by. It seems that this is God's will. Yuan Guang shouted coldly. Stop talking nonsense. Where is the lotus flower? Show us. Yun Chujio smiled faintly and waved her wide sleeves a few times. Then, a golden lotus flower appeared in her hand. Although the golden lotus flower was not big, everyone knew that it was the lotus flower. The reason was simple. The moment the golden lotus appeared, everyone felt extremely calm. If this was not a Buddha lotus, then what was it? Yuan Guang looked at the golden lotus in Yin Chujio's hand in disbelief. How is this possible? This must not be a Buddha lotus, it must be fake. Master Defang was standing behind the two of them. His old face was filled with excitement. Yuan Guang did not believe it, he believed it. Because he had read the records of the lotus in the ancient books. The lotus in Yun Chujio's hand was exactly the same as the one in the records. Moreover, the fragrance of concentration and tranquility could not be faked. Master Defang could not help but move closer and stared at the lotus in Yin Chujio's hand. Lotus, this is indeed a lotus. Amitabha, I actually saw a lotus in my lifetime. It is really the blessing of Buddha. Yin Chujio smiled slightly and actually handed the lotus flower in her hand to Master Defang. Master Defang, take a good look. Don't mistake it for something else. Master Defang received it in fear and trepidation. Then he stared at it without blinking. His face was full of infatuation. Chapter 5197 Yuan Guang committed suicide. Yuan Guang's expression was very interesting. There was disbelief, anger, and a bit of unwillingness. He gritted his teeth. Since Master Defang said that it was really a lotus, it was most likely true. He had to think of a way to destroy the lotus. Otherwise, not only would he lose face, but he would also lose this round. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Thinking of this, he took 2 steps forward and stretched out his hand to snatch the lotus from Master Defang's hand. Master Defang's attention was completely focused on the lotus. He was in a state of infatuation. When he felt the wind blowing, and it seemed like it came with ill intentions, he subconsciously waved his palm. Although Master Defang did not use his full strength, his cultivation was much higher than Yuan Guang's. In addition, Yuan Guang had never expected Master Defang to make a move, so his palm directly sent Yuan Guang flying. Yuan Guang was caught off guard and fell onto the competition stage. He was completely dumbfounded. This old Defang, was he old and stupid? He actually dared to hurt him. Just as he was angry, a thick stack of talismans smashed at him. He was completely unprepared. He did not even have the time to use his Buddha energy, so he was unlucky. Along with the sound of the talismans exploding, Yuan Guang screamed in pain. Yin Chujio threw the talisman onto Yuan Guang's body one by one. Anyway, she had many of these things. She would not let him die. Yuan Guang's scream finally woke up Master Defang, who was staring at the lotus infatuatedly. He quickly shouted, "Stop!" Yin Chujio was also obedient and immediately stopped. Master Defang was about to say something, but he did not expect Yuan Guang, whose face was covered in blood, to say, "Amitabha, this penniless monk is disrespectful to the son of Buddha and has committed a grave sin. I will go to the Avicii purgatory to repent." As Yuan Guang said that, he actually slapped his own head. Instantly his brain exploded. He actually died just like that. This unexpected turn of events shocked everyone. Oh my god! What the hell was going on? Why did that Yuan Guang suddenly commit suicide? Wasn't he quite arrogant before? Could it be that he had gone mad? Someone widened his eyes and said, "Wasn't Yuan Guang disrespectful to the son of Buddha and going to the Avicii purgatory to repent? Doesn't this mean that little Master Lonesome is really the reincarnation of the son of Buddha? That makes sense. Also, Master Defong said that the lotus flower that Little Master Lonely condensed is a real Buddha lotus. Little Master Lonely must be the reincarnation of the son of Buddha. No wonder I felt that Little Master Lonely was different from others when I saw him. So he really is the son of Buddha. Master Liao was dumbfounded. Even though he had seen great storms, the scene in front of him still shocked him. However, he soon figured out the cause of Yuan Guang's death. It must be Buddha's candle's doing. Buddha's candle had liked to possess Zen sect disciples to do evil deeds. Just now, Yuan Guang was severely injured by Yin Chujia's talisman. It was the time when he was weak, and it was a good opportunity for Buddha's candle to strike. However, he really couldn't understand how Yin Chujio could condense the Buddha's lotus body. She didn't have Buddha power at all, and the Buddha lotus had long been extinct. How did she do it? However, Master Liao knew that the most important thing now was not this, but to protect Yin Chujia's life. That Xian Hui was unreasonable. Although it seemed that Yuan Guang had committed suicide, he was very likely to vent his anger on Yin Chujio. Therefore, Master Liao gave a look to Master Lei. Master Lei immediately understood. When Xian Hui approached the competition stage, he also jumped over. Xian Huizi was on the verge of tears. He was very concerned about Yuan Guang, this disciple of his. Now that Yuan Guang had died tragically on the stage, he naturally wouldn't let it go. Chapter 5198. Little Buddha of Loneliness. Xian Hui blamed Yin Chujio for Yuan Guang's death. She felt that it was definitely her doing. Thus, after jumping onto the stage, she released a red lotus flower in an attempt to kill Yin Chujio. However, before he could finish releasing the red lotus flower, he was interrupted by a Master Lei. Master Xian Hui, what do you mean? What does Yuan Guang's suicide have to do with loneliness? Furthermore, even if it has something to do with loneliness, this is also something that happened on the competition stage. Are you trying to be a scoundrel? Furthermore, Yuan Guang said earlier that if loneliness can condense a Buddha lotus and let him do whatever he wants, could it be that you can't afford to lose? Master Lei sneered. He had not forgotten how Xian Hui looked when Yuan Guang ambushed Jisoo previously. Xian Hui's eyes were bloodshot. She was about to fight with a master, but was stopped by Master Lei. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Although Xian Hui was unwilling, she did not dare to fall out with Master Xuanji. She had no choice but to get someone to carry Yuan Guang's body down. She gave Yin Chujio a cold look before leaving the stage. Yin Chujio looked at the stiff expression on Master Defang's face and said with a smile, Master Defang, can you return the lotus to this penniless monk? Master Defang felt as if he had a dog in his heart. Although Xian Hui did not do anything to him, she must have already hated him. If he had known that this would happen, he would not have insisted on looking at the Buddha lotus. In fact, Yuan Guang was not entirely right. The Buddha lotus was not the only Buddha plant. There were other Buddha plants in the world. For example, the Zen sect's glazed Bodhi tree was also a Buddha plant. There were also some rare Buddha plants that grew in places where people rarely visited. However, the lotus flower was very meaningful to those who believed in Buddhism. So the lotus flower was very precious. Master Defang's intestines were green with regret. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. He definitely had reason to suspect that Lone had passed the lotus flower to him on purpose. If that was really the case, then Lone's thoughts were too meticulous. He had actually calculated the thoughts and reactions of him, and Yuan Guang clearly. He was simply as wise as a demon. Yin Chujio ignored Master Defang's suspicious gaze. She took the lotus and said to the crowd below the stage, Amitabha. Previously, this penniless monk said that I came here because I was enlightened by Buddha. Previously, It was not the right time, so this penniless monk did not say it out loud. Buddha entrusted a dream to this penniless monk and taught this penniless monk the divine ability to condense a Buddha lotus body. He ordered this penniless monk to boil water with a Buddha lotus and lead all living beings to salvation. This divine ability has many restrictions, and it wasn't easy to succeed once. Originally, this penniless monk planned to condense more Buddha lotus, but Yuan Guang interrupted me. Thus, this is the only one left. It's truly a great pity. Therefore, the effect of the water that everyone can drink will definitely be greatly reduced. This penniless monk really feels bad. Amitabha, it's all this penniless monk's fault. When the crowd below the stage heard this, they were all extremely excited. Did they hear wrongly? This lonely little master, no, lonely little Buddha, actually wanted to boil this extremely precious Buddha lotus into a water cloth and give it to them? Heavens! This was simply a great good thing. The fragrance of this Buddha lotus was so magical. After drinking it, it would definitely cure all diseases. Hence, someone shouted, "Lonely little Buddha, you don't have to blame yourself. If you want to blame someone, blame that Yuan Guang. If he hadn't interrupted your chanting, you might have been able to condense 10 or 8 Buddha lotuses." That's right. Yuan Guang's death is considered a great bargain for him. Otherwise, we would have strangled him to death. You're right. It's one thing for that idiot to seek his own death, but he actually implicated us. Even 100 deaths wouldn't be enough. Chapter 5199. Congratulations. You got it right. Xian Hui almost spat out a mouthful of blood when she heard the clamor of these people. However, the law did not punish the masses, so he could only focus his hatred on Yun Chujio. What kind of Buddha power condensed into a substance? This lone must have found a Buddha lotus from somewhere else, which was why he made such a fuss. Now he was actually using it to buy people's hearts. She was willing to spend a lot of money. Damn it. At this time, the little lonely Buddha, who had just come out of the oven on the stage, said with a compassionate face, "Everyone, don't be anxious. After today's competition is over, this penniless monk will distribute Buddha lotus water at the entrance of Buddha temple." The people below the stage naturally sang praises again, almost kowtowing in worship. The expressions of the Zen sect's people were very subtle. If they did not know that the little lonely Buddha on the stage was a fake, they might have believed it a little. If those onlookers knew that the lonely little Buddha who they praised was actually a little girl, would they go crazy? When Master Liao thought of this possibility, he couldn't help but shiver. He decided to hide the fact that Yun Chujio pretended to be lonely in his stomach. Otherwise, the gate of the Zen sect would be smashed by rotten eggs. On the stage, Hei Shinjio bought the hearts of the people and confirmed the title of Lonely Little Buddha. Just as she was about to jump off the stage with satisfaction, she saw a person jump up. Yun Chujio took a look and saw that it was a familiar face. It was the Yuanji who had been cheated by Yun Chujio's chicken or egg first. Yesterday, after Yuanji lost, he had been ridiculed by many people. Therefore, he hated Yun Chujio to death. However, this was not the main reason why he went on stage. The reason why he went on stage was because Yuan Guang was dead, and Xian Hui would definitely take in another successor disciple. If he could kill Yun Chujio or seriously injure Yun Chujio, then Xian Hui would very likely take him in as a successor disciple. Yuan Ji stopped Yun Chujio and said with a fake smile, "Lone, you and Yuan Guang had a literary battle before. How about we have a martial battle?" Yun Chujio said calmly, "I'm not interested. Find someone else." "Humph. Are you afraid of losing?" Yuan Ji provoked. Yun Chujio nodded confidently. "Congratulations, you got it right." Yuan Ji, "Lone, you have to fight today. You have to fight even if you don't want to. Who asked you not to step down earlier? You're just unlucky." As Yuan Ji spoke, he did not release his Buddhist power. Instead, he directly threw a palm at Yun Chujio. After Yin Chujio dodged, her heart stirred and she said, I can fight with you, but my Buddhist power is too pure. I'm afraid that I might accidentally take your life. How about this? We don't use Buddhist power. How about we only compete in movement techniques? Yuan Ji was already a little afraid of Yin Chujia's Buddhist power. Yin Chujia's words were exactly what she wanted. He immediately said, Sure, you do it. Ji Su, who was lying on his butt, almost laughed out loud. This Yuan Ji was really stupid. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. The female devil was best at movement techniques. He was going to be unlucky. Sigh. It seemed that he had too many things to learn from the female devil. She had used two strategies in this sentence. One was to trap him, and the other was to use her own strengths to attack his weaknesses. She was simply too smart. He had a few thoughts in his mind before he looked at the competition stage. At this moment, Yin Chujio and Yuan Ji were already fighting. However, contrary to Ji's expectations, Yin Chujio was actually at a disadvantage. Ji Su was stunned at first, then he thought to himself, TSK. The female devil's strategy at this moment was to deliberately mislead Yuan Ji. When Yuan Ji was careless, she would hit him with one strike. This female devil is really too bad. Chapter 5200 Transparent. Thinking of this, Ji Su was suddenly stunned. Why did he feel that he was smarter than before? Could it be because his butt was injured? So it was transparent. Tui. His butt was not his head. So it definitely was not because his butt was injured. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. It was probably because he had experienced life and death. So he became more transparent. It seemed that this time, it was a blessing in disguise. Ji Su was right. Hei Xinjiu on the stage did not use her full strength, so it seemed like she was at a disadvantage. The spectators below the stage were all burning with anxiety. They wished they could go up and help Yin Chujio kill Yuan Ji. The reason was simple. If lonely little Buddha was dead, who would give them Buddha lotus water? However, there was nothing they could do. They could not jump onto the competition stage to help. However, they felt that they could not do nothing. So they stretched their necks and shouted, Little Buddha Lonesome, we support you. You have to work harder and kill that guy who doesn't know goose and goose eggs. Yes, that guy. If you don't want to end up like Yuan Guang, you have to kneel down and admit your mistake. Otherwise, you won't have a good ending. That's right, you'd better admit your defeat. Otherwise, lonely little Buddha will use his strength, and you'll die a miserable death. Yuan Ji was so angry when he heard these people's shouts that he was about to explode. Even though he wanted to be unaffected by these voices, he was still somewhat distracted. Yin Chujio narrowed her eyes. Now was the time. Yin Chujia's speed suddenly increased. In a flash, she had already appeared behind Yuan Ji and raised her right arm to slap Yuan Ji. Yuan Ji felt the chill behind his back. He was so scared that he hurriedly jumped forward. However, he was still one step too late. He was swept by the palm wind. Yuan Ji only felt a burning pain on his back. His chest felt a little stuffy. Before he had time to think, Yin Chujia's ghostly figure once again appeared behind him. She slapped him again. Yuan Ji hurriedly dodged again. The situation on the stage instantly reversed, and the spectators below the stage were all extremely excited. They felt that their shouting must have had an effect, so they shouted even more joyfully. Yuan Ji was forced to step back again and again. He accidentally fell off the stage, and then he was beaten up by a group. To be precise, he was smashed by some miscellaneous items. What raw eggs, what rotten vegetables, and even the boot. Although Yuan Ji used his Buddhist power to protect himself, he was still in a sorry state. In addition, he had been swept by Yin Chujia's palm wind, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, the onlookers threw him even more joyfully. Yuanji finally returned to the bitter Zen sect's stands with great difficulty, and then he fainted with a choking sound. Seeing this, Yun Chujio quickly jumped off the stage. She had won 2 matches in a row, and it was all due to opportunism. It was better to quit while the situation was good, or else she might be exposed. At this time, the big score was 5-3. The bitter Zen sect only needed to win 1 more round to win the second round. However, the sky had already turned dark. Master Dafeng had no choice but to announce that the competition would continue the next day. The spectators did not disperse. Instead, they crowded to the entrance of the Buddha temple and waited anxiously for the lonely little Buddha to give out the Buddha lotus water. Yun Chujio did not go back on her word. She immediately set up the big iron pot and began to boil the Buddha lotus water. Yun Chujio also discovered by accident that this big iron pot had an additional ability. Its capacity was comparable to a storage ring. It did not look too big, but it could hold a lot of ingredients. Just like at this moment, Yun Chujio had already added several buckets of mountain spring water into the big iron pot, but the big iron pot was still 80% full. Chapter 5201. Language barrier is a serious injury. After Yin Chujio added enough water, she began to pretend to recite the sutras. Then, under the pained gazes of Master Liaowu and the others, she placed the Buddha lotus into the big iron pot. As the big iron pot bubbled, the fragrance of the Buddha lotus spread out. In the past, Yin Chujio didn't take the Buddha lotus seriously. After all, she had obtained a lot of Buddha lotus in the fallen god abyss. But this time in the Buddhist scripture pavilion, she read some records about the Buddha lotus. Only then did she know that the Buddha lotus had been extinct for a long time. Moreover, it could be boiled and used as a gift. It was said that a long time ago, eminent monks would do this on special days. Therefore, it was beneficial to read more books. Master Liaowu and the others looked pained. It was simply a reckless waste of a heavenly gift. Such a precious lotus was just cooked. They made up their minds that later on, they would definitely drink a few more bowls of lotus water. After a quarter of an hour, Yun Chujio felt that it was about time. She scooped up a bowl of lotus water and respectfully handed it to Master Liaowu. "Master, after you." Master Liaowu was so moved that he almost cried. This troublemaker actually had such filial piety. It was really rare. At this time, he completely forgot how angry he was when Yun Chujio called him a closed-door disciple. He also forgot that the lonely little Buddha in front of him was actually a little girl. Master Liaowu used his Buddhist power to lower the temperature of the Buddha lotus water a little before he took a sip. Although it was not as magical as he imagined, there was a long aftertaste in his mouth, which was longer than any good tea leaves. When the crowd saw the expression of enjoyment on Master Liaowu's face, their hearts were like cat's claws. Wishing they could take a sip immediately, Yun Chujio called Ji Kong and the others over to help, and began to distribute the gifts. Of course, these people from the Zen sect had a share. Yun Chujio was not stupid enough to turn her back on others. Because there were too many people, the distribution was not completed until late at night. The crowd was reluctant to leave until Yun Chujio put the big iron pot into her storage ring. Yun Chujio yawned a few times. After greeting Master Liaowu, she returned to her own courtyard. Once she entered the house, Buddha's candle came out to claim credit again. "If it wasn't for me today, why would that Yuan Guang commit suicide? I think I'm too powerful. Little girl, if it weren't for me, you would definitely suffer. Humph, you even threw me into the Zen sect before. Do you regret it now? Let me tell you, if you want to be safe in the future, you must bring me along." Yun Chujio was not angry when she heard Buddha's candle's smug words. The competition this time was indeed thanks to Buddha's candle. Otherwise, her fake identity would have been discovered long ago. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, Yun Chujio did not care. Someone no Guai Chao did care. The guaichao in her dantian shook its leaves. Bah! Shameless! Wasn't it just a broken candle? What was so great about it? The black-hearted little girl would not let it out. If she let it out, it could easily send those dregs flying. Yin Chujio sensed the guaichao's emotions and found it funny. It was clearly the Buddha's candle that had rendered a meritorious service. Why was Go Weiba showing off? It was really sick. After the guaichao sensed Yin Chujio's thoughts, it immediately felt bad for the entire plant. A lack of language was a hard injury. If it could speak, how would it be able to endure such cowardice? Go Weiba might have already conquered the Chongshao continent long ago. No, it was conquering all the continents. It was still the same saying. Once the Go Weibatsao appeared, who would contend with it? Chapter 5202. 200 caddies of guaichao. After guaichao's heroic spirit was over, Leaf drooped down in frustration. The reason was very simple. The black-hearted little girl could not expose her identity. So naturally, she would not let it out to show off. Yin Chujio saw guaichao's pitiful look and felt a rare pain in her conscience. She said, "I can let you out now, but you have to shrink your body a little." When guaichao heard this, it immediately began to use its leaves to show its cuteness. It was so happy that it could weigh 200 pounds. When Yin Chujio saw it like this, she could not help but laugh. She immediately let out the Go Weibatsao. Go Weibatsao shrunk itself to more than 1 foot tall. Although it could become smaller, it had its own narrow-mindedness. If the little girl knew that it could become very, very small, she might discover its small treasury. Therefore, it was better to be careful. Go Weibatsao was like a beast that had just been released. It jumped up and down in the house, without a moment of peace. The corner of Yin Chujio's eyes twitched. It was the first time she had seen such a lively and active grass. Buddha's candle was very dissatisfied with Go Weibakeo's action of stealing Yin Chujio's attention. It snorted coldly and said, "It's just a Go Weibatsao. What's the point of showing off? No matter how much you show off, it's still a Go Weibatsao that can't be put on the stage." The leaves of the Go Weibatsao immediately trembled. The Buddha's candle was now hidden in Yin Chujio's left palm. Even if it wanted to attack, it could not do anything. However, it was not too late for Go Weibatsao to take revenge. Just wait and see. Go Weibatsao showed off for a while, and created the illusion of dissipating. In fact, it turned into the size of a pinky, and hid in Yin Chujio's boot. Yin Chujio was completely unaware of this. She only thought that Go Weibakeo's spiritual power had been exhausted, so it dissipated. The next morning, the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly continued. Go Weibatsao used a leaf to cling to the side of Yin Chujio's boot, and sneakily looked around. This fellow felt that he was simply too smart. With a little trick, he could watch the show. Although it could also see things outside in Yin Chujio's dantian, the feeling was different. Moreover, this fellow had another idea. Yesterday, the clown candle was in the limelight. Today, it was its turn to be Go Weiba. When the onlookers saw Yin Chujio, they all greeted her politely. Yin Chujio completely entered the character of the lonely little Buddha. She put her hands together and smiled modestly and politely. When the onlookers saw that the lonely little Buddha was still so approachable, their impression of her became even better. Master Liaowu and the others were speechless. They didn't know whether to say that these people were too gullible, or that Yin Chujio's acting was too good. Perhaps even she herself had been deceived. Since the score of the second round of the Buddhist power competition yesterday was 5-3, the following round of the competition was of utmost importance. The bitter Zen sect directly sent out the successor disciple of Master Xuanji, Yuanji. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yuanji had won 4 Zen sect disciples in a row during the debate, but he was cheated by Yin Chujio in the last round. All his previous efforts were wasted, and he hated He Xinjiu to death. Therefore, as soon as Yuanji went on the stage, he directly declared war on Yin Chujio. Lonesome, We are both the successor disciples of the master. Do you dare to come on the stage and fight with me? Yin Chujio knew her own strength. If it were not for Yuan Guang who almost killed Ji Su yesterday, she would not have taken the risk to go on the stage. Therefore, after hearing Yuan Jie's provocation, this guy put his palms together and said calmly, Ba, don't listen to Fang Jing. If you don't fight, you're kind. If you don't argue, you're wise. Chapter 5203. I admit defeat. Yin Chujio's words were translated into plain language, meaning that only when one could not hear right and wrong could one be pure. Only when one did not fight could one be merciful. And only when one did not refute could one become wise. The subtext was, whether one listened or not, one could say whatever one wanted, but one would not accept the challenge. Yuan Ji sneered, You are really a coward. As the successor disciple of the sect leader, you actually did not step onto the stage at this critical moment. Aren't you afraid that other people would be dissatisfied with your master? After all, what you usually enjoy is the core resources of the sect. Now that you are required to contribute, you are backing off. If I were a Zen sect disciple, I would also feel resentful. Yuan Ji originally thought that his provocation would make those Zen sect disciples unhappy. However, he was stunned to see that those Zen sect disciples looked at him as if he was a fool. He could not help but curse in his heart. There was an 80% chance that these disciples of the Zen sect were sick. He did not know that the little Buddha lonesome in front of him was not a member of the Zen sect at all, let alone enjoying the core resources of the sect. Naturally, the disciples of the Zen sect would not be dissatisfied. Yuan Ji saw that Yin Chujio looked like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. He knew that she would not go on stage no matter what, so he had to give up the idea of continuing the provocation. He said arrogantly, Since Lone doesn't dare to go on the stage, who among the other disciples of the Jai generation of the Zen sect dares to go on the stage and fight with me? None of the disciples of the Jai generation of the Zen sect said anything. Since both Hope and Ji Su had lost, they would definitely lose if they went on the stage. Moreover, this round was very crucial. If they lost, they would lose the second round of the competition. None of them wanted to take the responsibility. Therefore, no one responded for a long time. Everyone lowered their heads and looked away, afraid that they would be called by Master Liaowu. Ji Kong saw this and stood up. He had used the method that Yin Chujio told him to defeat Yuan Tong. Originally, he did not plan to go on stage again. But now both Ji Su and Hope were injured, and others did not dare to go on stage. He could not let Yuan Ji scare him. Even if he lost, it was much better than no one going on stage. Yin Chujio saw Ji Kong going on stage, and couldn't help but frown. She didn't care about Ji Kong's win or loss, but was worried that Yuan Ji would secretly kill him. As Xin Ji's successor disciple, Yuan Ji naturally had many good things. Moreover, he was sinister. Although Ji Kong was somewhat enlightened, he might not be able to beat him. Thinking of this, she said to Yuan Ji on stage, Since you want to compete with me so much, then I'll accompany you for a few moves. Everyone was stunned. Didn't this Lone not want to go on stage before? Why did he change his mind again? Ji Kong understood a little, and was very touched. However, he knew that Yin Chujio was a fake. If he went on stage, he might be exposed, so he said, Junior brother Lone, it's better for me to go. Yin Chujio shook her head. That Yuan Ji's words are so harsh. Oh, go up and teach him a lesson. As Yin Chujio was about to go up the stage, Master Liaowu coughed and said, Lonesome, have you thought it through? Yin Chujio nodded. After activating the isolation array, she said to Master Liaowu, Well, I'll admit defeat when I go up. Don't blame me. Master Liaowu. After Yin Chujio removed the isolation array, she walked slowly to the bottom of the stage and jumped onto the stage. Yuan Ji glanced at her and sneered. You're finally willing to go on stage? Do you want to admit defeat or let me do it? Yin Chujio smiled faintly. I'll admit defeat myself. Yuanji. He was just saying all right. How could this lone be so shameless and actually admit defeat? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5204. I don't agree. Yuan Ji's face was stiff. As long as anyone was on the stage, how could they admit defeat? If they wanted to admit defeat, could they not go on the stage? Naturally, he would not let Yin Chujio admit defeat and step down the stage. He immediately said, I don't agree. You can't admit defeat before we fight. Yin Chujio looked at him. You were the one who asked if this penniless monk wanted to admit defeat. Now that this penniless monk has admitted defeat and you don't agree, is this appropriate? Yuan Ji's face stiffened, but he still said, no matter what I said before, this is a competition stage. As long as you haven't left the stage, it's not over. As Yuan Ji spoke, not only did he block Yin Chujio's path to leave the stage, but he also released the blue lotus. Yin Chujio was not flustered. Although she was not Yuan Ji's match, she had the chili dough and talisman. It was not a problem for her to escape. She thought and did the same thing. She immediately threw a big sack at Yuan Ji. Yuan Ji sneered. He was already prepared for this. He used his Buddhist power to protect himself, so the chili dough did not affect him in the slightest. Seeing this, Yin Chujio took out another stack of talismans. However, she found that the talismans could not be activated. She could not help but be stunned. How could this be? Yuan Ji sneered and said, if you have any other abilities, feel free to use them. When Yin Chujio heard this, she immediately understood that Yuan Ji must have some spirit tool that prohibited talismans on him. It seemed that Yuan Ji had come prepared. If she was not afraid of exposing her identity, she still had many tricks up her sleeves. The bad thing was that she was now the lonely little Buddha, and did not dare to use any other tricks. Although Buddha's candle could possess someone, Yuan Ji's cultivation level was much higher than Yuan Guang's. Even if Buddha's candle managed to successfully possess someone, the price would still be very heavy. Moreover, it might not succeed. If it didn't hit, there would be endless trouble in the future. At this moment, the arrow made of the blue Buddha lotus had already arrived in front of Yin Chujio. Yin Chujio couldn't put up her spiritual energy shield, so she could only rely on her nimble movements to dodge. The onlookers below saw Yin Chujio like this, and one by one, they began to make noise. See? The little lonely Buddha is different. He could have used his Buddhist power to protect himself, but he chose to use his movement technique to dodge. What does that mean? It means that the little lonely Buddha is too kind. He must have killed Yuan Ji because his Buddhist power was too pure. What you said makes sense. Other things aside, as long as little Buddha Lonesome releases his Buddha lotus, he can kill Yuan Ji in less than 15 minutes. That Yuan Ji thought little Buddha Lonesome was afraid of him. He really overestimated himself. The corner of Yin Chujio's eyes twitched. Where did they get their confidence from? It was all her fault for acting too well. Yin Chujio wanted to jump off the stage a few times, but she was forced back by Yuan Ji's attacks. She dodged more and more miserably. Yin Chujio said coldly, Yuan Ji, if you stop me from getting off the stage again, I won't be polite. Yuan Ji said disdainfully, not polite? I'd like to see how you're not polite. Release your Buddha lotus. Actually, Yuan Ji was also a little puzzled as to why Yin Chujio didn't use her Buddhist power. However, on second thought, this lonesome was only at the 9th level of the yellow lotus. Even if he released his lotus, it would be useless. He probably didn't want to embarrass himself, so he didn't release it. Yuan Ji, I'm warning you for the last time. If you continue to be stubborn, it'll really make you die. Yin Chujio said seriously. The people below the stage immediately burst into laughter. Yuan Ji, pass away. It was really fitting. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5205. Doing good deeds without leaving a name. Yuanji was instantly enraged from embarrassment. Lonesome, you're courting death. Yuanji immediately stepped up his attack. Yin Chujio secretly complained in her heart. Yuanji's cultivation was already higher than hers to begin with, and she could only rely on her movement techniques to avoid it. If this continued, she would definitely die. The only method she could use now was to let the Xiaohanyo curse her. However, this curse could only be used once a day. It was best if she did not use it. Therefore, she planned to think of another way. If she really could not, she would use this method again. What Yin Chujio did not know was that at this moment, Goei Batsao was leaning on her boots to watch the show. When this fellow saw that Yin Chujio was in a sorry state, it could not help but gloat. It deserved it. Who asked her not to let it out? However, it thought about it again. Actually, it was not because of this stupid girl. She was now a lonely little Buddha. Naturally, she could not release the spiritual beast. This fellow felt that the opportunity for Goei Batsao to make a contribution had come. However, it was now a weak chicken, so it had to find a good opportunity to make a move. After a few more rounds, Yin Chujio really did not have the strength to resist. After throwing out the big sack, she ordered the little black bird to curse, and was ready to jump off the competition stage when Yuanji was staggering. Yin Chujio saw Yuanji stumble, and was about to jump off the competition stage, but she was stunned to see Yuanji's body fall off the competition stage with a whoosh. Everyone was stunned. What was going on? How did Yuanji fall off the stage? Even Yuanji himself did not know what was going on, and was almost angered to death. He had just used Buddha's power to protect himself, when he suddenly felt his legs go soft. What was even more strange was that a huge force came from behind him, and he fell off the stage. What a ghost! Of course, he did not see a ghost. It was just Goei Bakeo's trick. The moment Yin Chujio threw out the big sack, Goei Batsao flew out from her boots. Because of the cover of the chili, no one noticed it. The guy took advantage of Yuanji's staggering, and used all his strength to crash into his body, which caused him to fall off the stage. At this time, this guy had already sneakily flown back into Yin Chujio's boots, while everyone was still in a daze. He was holding on to his boots and was proud of himself. This guy sighed in his heart. He was really too honorable. He never left his name behind when he did good deeds. At this time, the crowd was already boiling. Oh my God! Did you see that? Little Buddha Lonely had just said his harsh words, and this Yuanji rolled and crawled off the stage. Little Buddha Lonely must have used some kind of supernatural power. It's not necessarily that lonely little Buddha used some kind of supernatural power. Maybe Yuanji got his comeuppance. Anyway, there's no good ending for offending lonely little Buddha. Didn't Yuan Guang commit suicide before? You're right. Whoever goes against lonely little Buddha is courting death. Lonely little Buddha didn't want to go on the stage at first, but Yuanji kept shouting from above. He's really courting death. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yin Chujio was also confused at this moment. What was going on? Could it be that Xiaohanyo's curse had leveled up? Or could it be that some passing immortal had helped her? But no matter what, the result was good. Since Yuanji had already fallen off the stage, she had won this competition. Goei Batsao, who was watching the show, was immediately unhappy. What passing immortal? This was all thanks to Goei Ba. Yin Chujio felt the emotions of the strange grass in her dantian. She thought to herself, this Guai Chao is getting more and more shameless. What does this have to do with it? Chapter 5206 uses the Sanskrit mantra Goei Batsao, could feel Yin Chujio's thoughts. It really wanted to jump out of its boots and shout, It's it, it's it, it's it. However, for the sake of its future small treasury, for the sake of its future freedom, it decided to endure. Anyway, the gold would shine sooner or later. One day, this wretched girl would see the power of Goei Ba. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujio did not know that Gowei Batsao had little Jiojio in his heart. This fellow felt that he was in a good mood. Although she did not know how Yuan Ji had fallen, falling meant falling. She had actually picked up a victory for nothing. This fellow pressed his palms together and said to Yuan Ji, who was already livid with anger, Amitba, this penniless monk originally wanted to admit defeat, but I did not expect you to actually fall off the competition stage. In that case, the winner of this match will be this penniless monk. Sigh. This penniless monk doesn't want to win either, but the will of heaven is like this. This penniless monk is also very helpless. The onlookers immediately burst into laughter. They thought to themselves, this lonely little Buddha is really interesting. That Yuan Ji is probably going to die from anger. Yuan Ji was indeed very angry, but he had already fallen off the stage. This match was already lost. Just when everyone thought that Yuan Ji would return to the stands, he jumped onto the stage again. Yun Chujio was so scared that she quickly took a few steps back and said, Yuan Ji, what are you doing here? Don't tell me you don't want to admit your defeat? Yuan Ji snorted coldly. Although I lost the previous round, I will continue to challenge you in the next round. Why not? Yuan Ji felt that his loss just now was really cowardly and muddle-headed. Since that was the case, let's have another round. Yun Chujio frowned slightly. Since Yuan Ji was already on the stage, he would definitely not allow her to not accept the challenge or admit defeat directly. This Yuan Ji was really cunning. She thought for a moment and said, We'll talk about this round later. Master Defang, please announce the results of the previous round first, so that there won't be any disputes. Master Defang saw that Yuan Ji and the Bitter Zen sect did not have any objections. The main reason was that it was useless to object. After all, Yuan Ji had indeed fallen off the stage. Master Defang immediately announced, in the 9th round Zen sect lone wins. In the 2nd round, the score is 5-4, and the Bitter Zen sect leads by 1 round. Yuan Ji saw that Master Defang had finished his announcement, and immediately released the blue Buddha lotus. Clearly, he wanted to gain the upper hand. As Yun Chujio dodged, she secretly complained in her heart. Xiao Hanio's curse had already been used, and she had no way now. Could it be that she could only give herself away? Yun Chujio suddenly had an idea. She still had a skill that worked sometimes, but did not. That was the ghost cry wolf howl kill. Ah no, fanning kill. Although this guy had no confidence in this skill, he could only try his best now. Therefore, this guy took out a piece of jade glass Bodhi leaf and started to play. This guy originally wanted to play the little cabbage, but he felt that it was a little inappropriate. So he decided to play a song to show off. Yuan Ji saw that the few people that Yun Chujio was hiding from were in a sorry state, and actually still had the mood to play the song. He felt that she was most likely crazy. Master Liao's eyes lit up. That's right, this little girl knew how to kill with Sanskrit. If she could display her power, it would be no problem to take down this Yuan Ji. However, very quickly, Master Liao realized that he was overthinking. Because Yun Chujio's tune was very pleasant to hear, but it didn't have the slightest bit of offensive power. Moreover, because she was distracted by playing the tune, she was almost injured by Yuan Ji's Buddha lotus a few times. Yuan Ji's face was full of disdain. In his heart, he was sure that Yun Chujio already had no strength to resist. He could kill her very quickly. Yun Chujio was able to last for such a long time without using any Buddhist power. This was already beyond Yuan Ji's expectations, but it did not matter. He could kill her very soon anyway. Yun Chujio also knew this. She was so angry that she directly ate the jade glass Bodhi leaf in her mouth. Since she could not blow out the Sanskrit sound, she might as well eat it. Yuan Ji saw that Yun Chujio actually ate the jade glass Bodhi leaf in her hand. He couldn't help but be stunned. Wasn't this loan too wasteful? That was the jade glass Bodhi leaf in his hand. Yun Chujio took out another jade glass Bodhi leaf. She didn't care whether it could understand or not. She muttered in a low voice. If you can't be of any use, it'll eat you too. Panda's novel. Calm, however. When Yun Chujio played the tune again, Yuan Ji felt that his spiritual sense was a little absent-minded. Although he was not in a daze, his movements were clearly much slower. Yun Chujio's eyes lit up when she saw this, and she started to play even more enthusiastically. Yun Chujio originally planned to take this opportunity to jump off the competition stage and admit defeat. However, when she saw that Yuan Ji's movements were getting slower and slower, she changed her mind and decided to win this round. This guy was playing the tune, but his figure turned behind Yuan Ji like a ghost. She did not realize that there was a trace of treachery in Yuan Ji's eyes. He was indeed affected by Yun Chujio's tune, but his speed was not so slow. He did it on purpose. He also had the King of Hell's Storm Needle in his hand. He was determined. Once Yun Chujio turned behind him and was ready to attack, he would use the King of Hell's Storm Needle. At that time, he would definitely be able to take her life. Yun Chujio was completely unaware of this. At this time, she had already turned behind Yuan Ji and raised her right arm to slap Yuan Ji. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Calm. Yuan Ji dodged Yun Chujio's attack and then wanted to activate the King of Hell's Storm Needle in his hand. However, at this moment, his right leg was hit by a huge force, and he fell off the stage again. He fell on his back. What was even more tragic was that when he was hit, he had already activated the King of Hell's Storm Needle in his hand. Because of this collision, the cylinder was facing him, and several arrows hit his chest. The King of Hell's Torrential Rain Needle was extremely powerful, not to mention that it was so close to him. Yuan Ji did not even have the time to let out a scream before he died. Everyone looked at Yuan Ji, who had shot himself into a hedgehog. They were all dumbfounded. Could it be that Yuan Ji had committed suicide? Could it be that he had also offended the Buddha? So he was punished by the Buddha, just like Yuan Guang? If that was not the case, how could he explain the current situation? Yun Chujio was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. She knew that Yuan Ji must have wanted to ambush her, but she did not know what had caused the current situation. If that was not the case, although she might have avoided her vital points, she would have been seriously injured, and her identity might have been exposed. She was really too careless. The main reason was that she had witnessed the power of the Fan Ying kill before, so she did not suspect that Yuan Ji was faking it. It seemed that she had to be more cautious in the future. However, how did Yuan Ji fall? The first time was a coincidence, but the second time could not be a coincidence. Who had helped her? After a dead silence, the crowd exploded again. How is it? I told you little Buddha Lonesome couldn't be offended, right? Yuan Guang from before smashed his own head into pieces. And this Yuan Ji is even more miserable. He directly shot himself into a hedgehog. That makes sense. What is little Buddha Lonesome's identity? These people actually don't know what's good for them, and insist on competing with little Buddha Lonesome. Lonely Buddha said don't want to go on stage. They have to let him go on stage. Well, go on stage. The other Lonely Buddha has offered to admit defeat. They actually don't agree. This is not a suicide, what? Yes, the lonely little Buddha is so kind-hearted. He gave them many chances, but they didn't know how to cherish them. In the end they died. They deserved it. Hei Shinjio, who was still in a daze on the competition stage, heard the discussions of the crowd. She felt that the lotus fruit from yesterday was indeed not wasted. Look at how many people were eating melons. Well said, well said, well said. Master Xuanji of the Bitter Zen sect had already arrived in front of Yuan Ji's body. because he was far away, and Yin Chujia's position blocked his vision. He had no idea why Yuanji suddenly fell off the stage, nor did he know why Yuanji's King of Hell's Storm Needle was shot at him. Master Xuanji carefully examined Yuanji's body, but he did not find any flaws. When the furtive Goei Batsao saw this, it was pleased with itself. No matter how the old thing examined it, it could not find anything on it. Sigh, how could it be so kind? In fact, it could have made the stinky girl suffer a little, so that she would not scold it all the time. However, at that moment it couldn't help but attack. It was simply the kindest grass in the world. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Comet was simply an example of returning good for evil. In the future, when it could speak, it would definitely make the stinky girl shed tears of gratitude towards it. If it wasn't for Go Weiba, she would have died countless times. This fellow selectively forgot that he had almost killed Yin Chujio several times before. He was immersed in the setting of the best grass, and he was so touched that he couldn't even speak. Master Xuanji only had one true disciple, Yuanji. Now that Yuanji was dead, one could imagine how angry and sad he was. However, Yuanji had shot himself to death. Even if he wanted to avenge his disciple, he couldn't blame Yin Chujio. Moreover, Yuanji was the one who insisted on competing with Yin Chujio. Even so, Master Xuanji blamed Yuanji's death on Yin Chujio. He looked at Yin Chujio with a bone-chilling gaze. Panda's novel Moreover, Master Liao wasn't dead. He wouldn't just sit and watch. She looked at Master Defong and said lightly, "Master Defong, please announce the result of this round." Master Defong only had to force himself to announce in front of Master Xuanzi's cold eyes. The 10th round, Zen Sect Lonesome wins. The total score of the second round is 5-5. Yin Chujio heard Master Fong announce the results. She originally wanted to jump off the competition stage and return to her seat, but Master Xuanji was below. This fellow was afraid of being tortured to death, so he stood on the stage and gave Master Liao a look, asking him to send Master Xuanji away, or come to pick her up. Master Liao understood, and just as he got up to pretend to comfort Master Xuanji, he did not expect someone from the bitter Zen sect to jump onto the competition stage. Yin Chujio frowned slightly when she saw the person. The person standing in front of her was a middle-aged monk. He did not look good, which was originally nothing, but Yin Chujio had a photographic memory. He was not in the bitter Zen sect's lineup yesterday. Could it be that this person was originally the hidden strength of the bitter Zen sect? So he showed up today in order to ensure victory? At this moment the person said, "This penniless monk Yuan Kong, let us compete in this round." Yin Chujio's heart sank. No wonder that Xianji had been lingering under the competition stage. He must have wanted to stop her from leaving the stage. Now, since she was on the competition stage, Yuan Kong would not let her leave. Moreover, if she had admitted defeat earlier, she would have admitted defeat. But now the score was 5-5. If she admitted defeat, the people of Zen sect would feel it was a pity even if they did not say it. The third round was a competition of array formations. It was said that the bitter Zen sect had a very powerful array formation, so it was best to end the competition in the second round. However, she had won the previous 2 rounds because of dog shit and luck. This round Sky was not friendly, and she could not use her spiritual power, so the risk was a bit high. Before Yin Chujio could come to a conclusion, Yuan Kong directly slapped Yin Chujio's face. Yin Chujio quickly dodged to the side and shouted, "The competition hasn't started yet, you." Before Yin Chujio finished her sentence, Yuan Kong's second palm had already arrived, and at the same time, he released the blue Buddha lotus. Yin Chujio's heart sank. Not only was Yuan Kong's movement technique very fast, but his speed of condensing the Buddha lotus was much faster than Yuan Ji's. This meant that his cultivation was much higher than Yuan-Jis. If she didn't think of a way as soon as possible, her little life would probably end here. She really had no choice but to use the same trick again. She threw the chili noodles and talisman seals. But Yuan Kong was already prepared. He used Buddha power to protect his body. So the chili noodles were completely useless. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Comas for the talisman seals, he must have a spirit tool on him. So he couldn't use them at all. Yin Chujio was really at her wit's end. She was careless and was shot in the right shoulder by an arrow formed from a Buddha lotus petal. In an instant, blood dyed the monk's robe red. There were waves of exclamations coming from below the stage. The onlookers stared with their eyes wide open, but their mouths were not idle. Oh no! Little Buddha Lone Moon is actually injured. It seems that Yuan Kong is not easy to deal with. Panda's novel. Come yes. Little Buddha Lone Moon. Quickly use your golden Buddha lotus to kill him. We all support you. Yin Chujio smiled bitterly in her heart. She could not even form the most ordinary black lotus, let alone the golden lotus. If she really could not do it, she could only take the risk of exposing herself and deal with Yuan Kong. After all, nothing was more important than her life. She was not that stupid. The Goei Batsao in Yin Chujio's boots wanted to help, but it could not find a suitable opportunity. Moreover, it had used up a lot of spiritual power to deal with Yuan Ji previously. Now it was not enough. Just as Yin Chujio was about to use the purple needle, several gray shadows jumped onto the competition stage and pounced towards Yuan Kong. In an instant, Yuan Kong cried out in pain. At this time, Yin Chujio also saw the gray shadows clearly. It was actually dozens of inch rats. Although the attack power of the inch rats was very ordinary, their speed was very fast. Moreover, their claws and teeth were very sharp. Yuan Kong's face was now a bloody mess, and even his nose and ears had been bitten off by the inch rats. Yin Chujio did not have time to think too much. She quickly took out a sword from her storage ring and stabbed it at Yuan Kong. As the saying goes, take his life while he was sick. She was not a gentleman. Yuan Kong's eyes were also scratched by the inch rats. His vision was blurry. Moreover, his attention was on the inch rats. So Yin Chujio's sword cut off his head. The process was so smooth that Yin Chujio herself could not believe it. In fact, this was because Goei Batsao pushed Yuan Kong's back, which was basically equivalent to him bumping into Yin Chujio's sword. Goei Batsao was very small, and the stage was in a mess, so no one noticed it at all. However, one of the hamsters saw it and squeaked a few times. However, no one understood it. Yin Chujio saw that Yuan Kong was already dead, and she finally heaved a sigh of relief. She looked at the inch rats gratefully. A few inch rats were severely injured by Yuan Kong, so Yin Chujio quickly took out pills and fed them. She had saved an inch rat from Yuan Qing during the scripture debate, so it must have been the little thing that summoned its companions to save her. As expected, Yin Chujio found the inch rat in the group of rats. The little thing's bright black eyes were especially lively. Perhaps it was the king of the rats. However, she did not know how it had fallen into Yuan Qing's hands. Yin Chujio said gratefully to the inch rat, "Thank you very much. I'll give these pills to you." Yin Chujio took out a lot of pills and handed them to the inch rat. The inch rat immediately kept the pills into its storage space. Then, it called the other inch rats and ran away as fast as it could. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Oh my God! They had only read about the story of a spirit beast returning a favor in the storybook. They didn't expect that they would actually see a real-life version today. The little lonely Buddha was indeed the little lonely Buddha. He was always able to turn misfortune into good fortune in times of danger. He was really amazing. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Calm on the bitter Zen sect's side, there was a cloud of gloom and misery. Master Xuanzi's face was terrifyingly gloomy. This Yuan Kong was the disciple of the supreme elder of the Bitter Zen sect, and had specially rushed over to help. But now he had directly lost his life. Originally, Yuan Kong already had the absolute advantage, and would soon be able to kill that loneliness. He did not expect to be disturbed by a group of inch rats. Thinking of the inch rats, Master Xuanji gave Yuan Qing a vicious glance. Yuan Qing was so frightened by this cold look that he almost peed. He felt that his life was going to be over. If he had known earlier, he would not have taken the initiative to go on stage yesterday. If he had known earlier, he would not have been idle and captured that inch rat. The worst mistake was that because he wanted to give that inch rat away, he did not establish a contract with that inch rat. Otherwise, there would not have been this trouble. In stark contrast to the Bitter Zen sect, the Zen sect members were overjoyed. Haha, they didn't expect that they would win. The first round of scripture debate and the second round of Buddhist power competition were both won by the Zen sect. There was no need to compete in the third round of array formation. It was really a cause for celebration. Panda's novel, Kamyin Chujio, was also very happy. 2 out of 3 wins. The Zen sect had already obtained 2 victories, which meant that there was no need for the third round of competition. Previously, Master Liaowu had promised her that as long as she helped the Zen sect to win the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly, he would tell her who was behind the imprisonment of her parents. It was great. Yun Chujio looked at Master Dafeng with a smile, wanting to urge him to announce the final result of the competition. But unexpectedly, Master Xuanji said in a deep voice, "This round can't be counted. If it weren't for those inch rats, the winner of this round should be Yuan Kong." Master Liaowu immediately retorted, "Master Xuanji, what you said is wrong. There are no ifs in this world. Yuan Kong was attacked by the inch rats. It can only be said that he was unlucky, so this round is won by loan." Master Xuanji sneered, "If the owner of the inch rats is loneliness, I have nothing to say. After all, they can show their abilities on the competition stage." However, those inch rats grew wild in Mount Buddha, so this round could not be counted at all. "Master Liaowu, don't you know whether loneliness won by his own ability or not? I didn't expect that your Zen sect has fallen to such a state." Master Liaowu was unwilling to be outdone. "There is cause and effect. Why did those crotch rats help Lonesome? Wasn't it because your disciple wanted to kill one of the crotch rats? So this is what your Zen sect deserves. Moreover, everything that happened on the competition stage should be counted as part of the competition. You can only admit your bad luck. No matter what, your Zen sect has already lost this 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly. If anything happens in the future, don't blame us for being impolite." The two of them argued with each other for quite a while, but they did not come to a conclusion. At this time, Master Defong said, "Amitba, how about we call this round a draw? Let's call this round a draw between the Zen sect and the Bitter Zen sect. Let's directly enter the third round of the competition." Master Liaowu naturally wouldn't accept it. They had already won, so why would they compete in the third round? Moreover, he had heard that the Bitter Zen sect had a powerful array formation. If they were to compete in the third round, their Zen sect might not be able to win. Master Xuanzi's eyes flashed. He changed the topic and said, "Our Bitter Zen sect has a lot of scriptures. Many of them are ancient Buddhist scriptures. After all, our two sects have the same origin. If the time is right, our Bitter Zen sect is willing to give some to the Zen sect as a gift. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Calm Master Liaowu was not a fool, so he naturally understood Master Xuanzi's underlying meaning. If he agreed that this round was a draw, then the Bitter Zen sect would give some ancient Buddhist scriptures to the Zen sect. This condition could be said to have hit Master Liao's heart. Previously, the ancestor of the Lan family had relied on a Buddhist scripture to obtain the qualification to cultivate in the tranquil spring, which showed how much the Zen sect valued the ancient Buddhist scriptures. Master Liao thought for a moment and asked, "How many scrolls is Master Xuanji prepared to gift?" 20 scrolls, Master Xuanji said. Panda's novel. Calm Master Liao was very conflicted. The attraction of 20 ancient Buddhist scriptures was too great. But once he agreed, if he lost the third round of the array competition, wouldn't the gains outweigh the losses? Just as Master Liao was hesitating, Master Xuanji said, "Since it's a competition, we have to convince both sides. If the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly ends like this, our bitter Zen sect won't accept it. Then, our previous promise won't count." The subtext of his words was that if this round counted as their loss, they would refuse to admit their defeat. They continued to send troops to attack the Zen sect. Master Liao thought that if this was the case, they might as well ask for these 20 volumes of ancient Buddhist scriptures. Even if they lost in the third round of the array competition, the big score would only be 1-1. There was still room for reconciliation. Moreover, didn't he still have his precious disciple? Perhaps he could win in the third round. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.